Welcome, everyone. This is your friend, the DN What If, here with another exciting fanfiction. Today, we're diving into the story of what if Deku got engaged just to make Uraraka happy? If you enjoy this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more fanfiction content just like this. Now, let's get started with the fanfic. Deku was going to get married. He'd never thought about it, he didn't plan on it. He never considered himself that kind of person. But he didn't have the heart to refuse when Ochako asked him. Indeed, it was more like he didn't mind. It was something very casual. It happened on one of those rare nights they could have dinner together. They worked at different agencies, so their schedules were different. He remembers the weak light from the stars, barely dissipating the darkness of the night while they looked at them from the balcony. That's when Ochako said, "Deku-kun, shouldn't we get married?" Deku looked at her, smiling with a confused face. Uraraka averted her gaze from him. A little blush had appeared on one of her cheeks. "We already live together and we have stable jobs. I don't want to force you or anything. She took a moment to take a delicate breath. "I just thought it could be a good idea. Thinking about it makes me happy. I love you after all." Izuku opened and closed his mouth, giving her a contemplative look. Then he looked at the sky again. Marrying wouldn't change his life much, right? They were 20, they both were heroes, they rarely saw each other because he went on missions with Kaken all the time, so sharing home like they already did wouldn't become exhaustive or something like that. Also, he had no plans about breaking up. So if a wedding made Uraraka happy, he could do it. Why not? It wasn't that much of a problem. At the end of the day, it was just a celebration. Their lives would be the same. Sure, he finally replied, smiling. He noticed Uraraka sighing softly, from relief. He felt a bit of pity, maybe he had been muttering all the time and she made her worry. But she embraced him in a tight hug, subsequently, and kissed him on the lips. "Don't you want me to ask you properly? With a ring and all that." "I feel a little bad," Izuku said. She shook her head tenderly. "It's okay. This way we can start planning everything as soon as possible." That affirmation filled his stomach with a sudden wave of anxiety. But he decided to ignore it, it was probably a natural reaction. On the next day, he had time to give some thought about it while he was patrolling. "I'm going to get married." He repeated it in his mind for the 10th time. He'd spent his entire life focusing on hero stuff, so he hadn't daydreamed about it like some people usually do. Also, he was always a nerd. And he didn't have friends in middle school. He felt shocked the more he thought about it, because there's no way his self from the past had imagined back then that he would marry a pretty woman. He remembered he just sometimes wished he had friends. He used to wish that Kaken accepted his friendship and Kaken. He should be the first person to hear the news. Kaken was intelligent, and he'd become a little more calm and mature with the short passing of the years. Kaken was honest, so he wouldn't hesitate to scold him in case he was committing some mistake. That's why he told him during the midday break, while they were having lunch. "Kaken. I'm going to get married." Katsuki observed him, in silence. Then he looked away again and took a sip of his drink, really calmly, which made Izuku feel kinda weirded out because his face seemed so unnaturally neutral that he felt as if he was talking to Shudo and not Kaken. Then he said, "Not surprising." And he continued eating. Izuku blinked. He didn't expect that and he didn't feel relieved at all, because somehow the lack of judgment from Katsuki made him realize that maybe he actually wanted to hear something negative. Something that made him make up for the fact that his answer to Uraraka had been too immediate, as he concluded the morning after waking up. He was expecting "Don't you realize a marriage is a promise to be together forever, dumbass? Have you even asked her if she pretends to have kids? Do you plan to have a family? With your responsibility with the world, you know someone could use it against you at any moment, right? And do you even want it in the first place? Or a simple, 'You're just 20, aren't you going too quickly?'" But nothing came. Is that all you're gonna say?" Katsuki shrugged. "Congratulations." "Why, thanks. But it's not that. Why did you say it's not surprising?" He rolled his eyes. "Because you've been together for 4 years and your relationship is always the same, it was gonna happen sooner or later." Your relationship is always the same. For some reason that part resonated in his head. Well, true. They had never fought. Uraraka was pretty reluctant when it came to showing she was bothered by anything. They hadn't become more passionate or something either. It was just the same as when they started dating. He could almost say they were the same as before they started dating, removing the excessive embarrassment and awkwardness from the beginning. But still, the words didn't make him feel good. He didn't know why. Do you mean that in a good way or a bad w-? Katsuki sighed hard, clearly exasperated. What is your point, Deku? He interrupted him. What are you really trying to ask me? Just spit it out. It's nothing, he looked down on the floor sheepishly. I just wanted to know if this is a good idea. You're the one who just got engaged, why are you asking me? I don't know. We have similar dreams. Would you marry someone if you were in my place? It was a very short moment, but he saw Katsuki hesitate. He'd pressed his lips together, looking away, just like when he's uncomfortable about a topic. Izuka didn't understand why. I am me, you are you. We have an objective in common. That doesn't change that you're a cheesy guy and I'm not. Marrying suits you, I guess. I'm not cheesy, Kaken. He pouted. And the problem is, well, this is supposed to be forever, right? What if I? Deku. He went quiet the moment Katsuki's eyes remained fixed right on him. His gaze stayed fixed on Katsuki as well, doubtfully. You're gonna be okay. Izuku gulped, letting his internal worrying finally show completely in his face, letting himself to be as vulnerable as he felt in that moment. Do you really think so? You mean it? You're everything for round face. She's gonna take care of your stupid reckless but well. You're gonna be one of those boring, disgusting, cheesy couples that live in a family-friendly neighborhood, who neighbors secretly hate because they smile so much that they seem fake, but in your case, you're actually gonna be so DMN happy together. Stop overthinking. Kaken, he smiled warmly, now relieved and moved by his words. He didn't usually hear him say that kind of things. Thank you. Really? For thinking that. Katsuki rolled his eyes again. Yeah, whatever. He stood up. Come on, we're gonna arrive late. He felt much better now. Kaken was usually right in everything, so there was nothing to worry about. They got back to work and Izuka finally started to feel relaxed. At least during that day. The next one, however, the little sensation of anxiety from the day before came back, now that literally everyone knew the news already. He'd planned to only tell Katsuki for the time being, but Ochako had told all the girls the first day already, so it was just a matter of hours before it got spread easily. He received messages and messages from his ex-classmates, former friends, congratulating him, except Shudo, who stopped by the agency to do it in person. Izuku apologized to him for not telling him quickly enough. From that point, everything went well again. Until 4 days passed. That morning he wanted to ask Katsuki to be his best man, but he didn't appear. All right, you two patrol this area together, Mirio said, smiling to him and a coworker with an air quirk who he barely talked to. Izuku promptly frowned, disoriented. Where is Catch? Sorry. I mean, Dynamite? Is he feeling well? Mirio tilted his head, noticeably confused. Don't you remember? He's in the USA. In the USA? His frown deepened in perplexion. What had he missed? Was he sent on a mission or something? He asked. What are you saying? Mirio said nicely. He actually went to live there. It's not a temporary thing, it seems. I even helped him with his transfer to another agency there. Many hero companies want him, so it was easy, just some papers and recommendation stuff. I don't know why he was in that much of a rush though, he said, scratching his head with certain curiosity, but his voice tone remained chill as if it was nothing important. Kaken lived in another country now? In just a few days. And he didn't notice. Had he planned on it for a long time? It didn't seem the case, because Mirio said he was in a rush. But why? He asked. For some reason, the words left his mouth more like a whisper than a proper sentence. Mirio shrugged. It was something related to his career. He wants to push it forward. And also, you know, All Might started in the USA, so it isn't that strange? International recognition is important too, I guess. Maybe I should do the same one day and travel around. he concluded happily. All right. Thanks for the information, he forced a smile. No problem. I'm surprised he didn't tell you. Yeah. Me too. He was incapable of setting apart the cold invading his insides. Shudo. The moment he found enough time, he went and looked for Todoroki. He worked with Hawks, so it wasn't hard to find him. The agencies were near each other, so he actually had lunch with him and Bakugo frequently, and they had recurrent collaborations. Oh. Hello, he replied once he noticed Izuku's presence. Kaken lives in the USA now. He went straight to the point. Todoroki furrowed his brow, very slightly. Yeah, I know. You didn't. He felt his stomach sink immediately. No. I just found out today. That's weird. Shudo touched his chin, thoughtful. So that's what you weren't in the dinner. Oh great. It kept getting worse. What dinner? Deep inside, he didn't want to ask. It was 2 days ago. We were just in a bar, having dinner and drinking, like a sort of farewell party. But there weren't many people, don't worry. Just Kirishima, Kaminari, Siro, Momo, Jair, Tokoyami, Ajuru, Aoyama, Ashidomi. You mean all class of A? No, the ones who had to work at night weren't there. And you either. Izuku removed his urge to roll his eyes hard. It wasn't just class A. Aizawa-sensei was there too, Hawks, my father, and also people from class B. Kendo Monoma? Monoma? Izuku stopped for a moment and breathed deeply, touching the bridge of his nose while he closed his eyes. All right. Okay, he said, taking a breath. He was curious about what Todoroki's exact definition of not many people was, but he decided not to dig that. Shudo gave him a weird look and said, I think everyone just assumed you two had talked about it before, and you'd had your own goodbye, I guess, considering you worked together. I actually thought you were too sad to go to the dinner, but since All Might took him to the airport, I supposed you'd be with them. No, it's just the opposite. Izuku looked down to the ground, his expression filling with more sorrowness. He didn't tell me anything. Then he fell in a long silence, his mind in another place, formulating a rain of not really concrete questions, but he wasn't aware of it until Todoroki said, Are you okay? Huh. He came back to reality. Oh, why? Don't worry. I was just surprised, thanks. I have to go back to work now, he added, looking at his watch in not a very natural manner. See you tomorrow, okay? Sure. He returned to his place as soon as possible, trying to put aside the aching on his chest. It's okay, he'll call me. He will call me. I can't call him because if he didn't tell me it's just 'cause it was his decision. There might be a reason. He just arrived, he needs to settle down, and that's why I can't bother him or put pressure on him right now, but he'll call me. He needed to make a lot of preparations in a short time. Talking to me about it wasn't his priority. Maybe he just wanted to tell Kirishima, but Kirishima called everyone and that's why everyone knows, just like the wedding thing when it was spread. Maybe he forgot to tell me, maybe? Maybe he didn't consider him important enough to tell him. He felt that thought get stuck in his throat. He was overthinking too much, he just needed to arrive home and sleep. But would not calling Kaken make him a bad friend? He should call him and ask him how he's doing. Kaken was the one who chose not to tell him, so he should wait for his call instead. But a whole week passed, and he didn't receive news until he was sent on a mission in another city with Fatgum, Kirishima and Kaminari, along with his current hero partner who was replacing Katsuki. It was a collaboration between agencies, which kinda reminded him of that time they went after Overhaul in their first year of high school. Come on, don't be like that. I'm just worried about you. At some point, Kirishima's friendly voice called Izuku's attention, despite he'd been lost in his thoughts during the trip in the private car. He was talking on the phone. That's not true. My diet is very well balanced too, and also didn't people there eat really bad? That's why I told you to eat well, nothing else. Aha, are you serious? That's rude, man. He kept replying, laughing and listening to things at the other side of the line. By the way, thank you so much for the gift, man, it means so much. I didn't expect one so soon. Let me talk to him. I want to thank him for mine too, Kaminari said suddenly, startling Deku who was next to him. And for Jairu's. All right. Kirishima passed him the mobile phone and it was Denki who started talking. Izuku forced a smile, looking at Kirishima. Were you talking to Kaken? Yeah. Do you want to talk to him too? He said he has a 30-minute break, though. He's doing a night patrol. I hope Kaminari doesn't take too long. Izuku passed from feeling as the closest person to Katsuki to feeling as if he wasn't needed at all, as if he was an intruder in his group of friends. A third party who needed to ask for permission or middle interventions to talk with his childhood friend. It's okay, thanks. I don't want to bother him now. The car stopped and he checked his phone one last time. He was surprised at how many times he'd been doing that every day during the whole week. On the inside, he knew that he was just expecting a message from him. Anything. Instead, there was a message from Todoroki saying, "Is it that bad?" under the photo of a figurine of him wearing a cape that was like the USA flag. Izuku zoomed the image to read a postcard next. To the figurine in Kaken's handwriting that said, "Because your stupid hair looks like that and your hero costume is blue, people here adore you. They think you're paying tribute to them. Sent it to you so you have nightmares tonight. You're welcome, icy hot." Izuku would have laughed if that wasn't just another clear reminder that Katsuki had literally thought about everyone but him. Hours passed, and he was thankful that he was a physically stronger person now, because he managed to win against a villain despite not being focused at all. If they'd had to deal with a powerful one, he's afraid he could have perfectly committed a mistake. His mind was really in another place. Deku-kun, Deku-kun. Uraraka's voice made him come back to reality. He'd been overthinking so much that he forgot he was at home already. You've been staring at the fish for 10 whole minutes, impressive. Oh, sorry, he chuckled lightly, before continuing eating. Are you okay? Her voice tone softened. You've seemed kinda off lately. Is the wedding stressing you out? Wedding? He was shocked at himself. He'd been so focused on Kaken going to the USA that he forgot they had to plan the wedding. Now he felt bad about Uraraka, assuming he was worried about the wedding when he hadn't thought about it at all. Did you know Kaken went to the USA? To live there? Uraraka seemed surprised at what seemed a sudden change of subject, not realizing that was the explanation Izuku was giving about feeling off. Wait, really? You're the first person I see who didn't know either, he said with a sad smile. It was a week ago. I'm shocked, she said. And why did he do that? Apparently, it's because he wants to push forward his hero career. Oh, cool. She shrugged. Cool. Izuku raised an eyebrow. He didn't expect their moods would contrast so much. Uraraka looked up at him due to the question, and she pressed her lips in imminent tension when she saw his demotivated face. Oh, you miss him, right? That's why you've been a little sad lately? She smiled tenderly and she put her hand on his. It's okay to miss a friend. But he did it because it would improve his future even more, right? You should be happy for him, he's gonna be okay. Izuku swallowed. He really wanted those words to hit him, he really wanted to feel happy, but for some reason it didn't make him feel better. Her conclusion felt kind of void, indeed. But he faked another smile. He realized he'd been doing that with too much frequency recently. Thanks, Ochako. That makes me feel better, he lied. I just need a bit of rest, I'm going to bed now, okay? Sure. I'm going too. But he felt that same uneasiness in bed. Of course he was happy for Kaken. He was just surprised. And worried. Kaken wasn't the kind of person who makes rushed decisions. It was difficult for him to believe Kaken was and would be completely okay. Now that he thinks about it, Kaken hadn't talked much the week before going, and he seemed pretty busy, probably planning the trip. Why did he feel the need to go, though? Wasn't he satisfied? He was doing his work well, he also managed to outshine his bad fame from the past, and people loved him a lot. What was he looking for in the USA? Did he go just because All Might did when he was young? Why did he forget about him so easily? Why did he toss him aside? Deku-kun, are you crying? Sniff. Izuku wiped the tears from his eyes. I thought you were asleep, he said. I'm sorry. You date a man who cries over everything. Don't ever say that again. She turned to the side and caressed his hair. I'm so proud of having such a strong hero as my future husband. You can cry all you want. What's wrong? It's just that, he breathed, wiping the new tears again. When we were children, Kakin used to push me away, you already know it. But I still thought he was so cool. When some kid tried to bully him, he always won the fights, and I admired that, but I knew he was annoyed by me, so I kept watching him from the distance, while the others praised him. I got used to that. It hurt, but I got used to it. And then I met everyone. You, Shudo Itakuan. And yet. He bit his lip and exhaled again. And yet I feel like I'm reliving all that again. He sniffed. There was. Until that day his feelings hadn't come to words because he didn't want to find them, but there it was. He felt like primary Deku, middle school Deku, and Bakugo Rescue Squad Deku when he acknowledged he wasn't the one to take Katsuki's hand. But why? Uraraka looked confused. Deku-kun, he just went abroad. Yes, but he didn't tell me, he said angrily, but luckily Uraraka understood it was the tone of his voice was not directed at her. He didn't even say goodbye. And he talks to everyone, but not me. No, he doesn't have to tell me. I know he has the right to talk to whoever he wants, but he just can't do that, you know? Uraraka nodded. He can't get me used to him again. He can't make me believe we were friends again. Maybe I was the idiot, I know. Maybe I was the one who mistook his feelings. I thought he finally liked me. Ochako frowned at that, but Izuku didn't realize. At the end, he just helped me, he just learned to tolerate me, he saved me back then, because he's just tried to atone all this time. Even after he apologized, I think he was scared to reject me again because of how he treated me in middle school, but now that he's gone, there's no need for him to keep in touch with me. Deku-kun, I thought we were finally friends. I thought we would be hero partners forever. I think that's why I feel so shocked. We were winning enough money, I was gonna tell him to make our own hero agency together next year. Wait, really? She said very calmly. A lot. Almost displeased by that. Yeah. He sighed. But I guess that's not possible now. We still can do our own agency. She raised her arm with an uncertain smile. Deku laughed softly. It's okay, Ochako. You don't need to do that. No. Seriously, we can make one, it's what you want, right? Our quirks are too different, he said nicely, feeling sleepy now that he had let it all out. I need someone who compliments me. She frowned instantaneously, opening her mouth to say something that never came out, and Izuku had already turned around anyway. Thanks for listening to me, Ochako. I'll feel better soon. Good night. Good night. All right, he breathed in and out. I can do this. He made sure it was afternoon in the USA and he used part of his free time to make a call to Katsuki. Now that he had expressed and recognized his feelings of rejection last night, he thought he could finally try and talk to him, since there was nothing to lose anyway. As the ring of the call kept going, his legs trembled and he felt his face heat up at the thought that he was basically acting like a teen calling his crush. He didn't have a reason to be so nervous, but he couldn't help it. When he received an answer from the other line, he almost forgot how to breathe. Deku. There was a considerable amount of silence. He was scared his heart could pierce through his chest as if something hit a paper wall and run away. If you're gonna call someone in the middle of the work, you could do something, like talking. How are you doing? He said out of a sudden, a bit too louder than he pretended. Oh God, he felt so embarrassed now. Fine. He sounded with no energy at all. Was it hard to install there? It must have been so tiring, he wanted the conversation to keep going. He wasn't aware until now about how much he'd missed his voice. It was okay. Of course, with such short answers his mission wouldn't be easy. Izuku sighed. It would be better if he went straight to the point. Kakin, are you mad at me? His voice felt so tiny now. What? He sounded genuinely disconcerted. I was surprised when I found out you'd gone. I was just wondering why you didn't tell me. After some seconds, he heard a sigh on the other line. I'm not mad at you, Deku. I was just busy. And I didn't know if you'd make a drama about it or something. I wanted to avoid that, so I just came here. I mean, of course I would be sad. He tried not to get mad at the way Katsuki worded it. But it's your career, Kakin. I'm happy for you. It's not like I'm gonna stop you. Couldn't you call me at least? He tried to keep the tone of his voice gentle. He hadn't called him to argue. It was pretty hard, though. Why would I call you? If you don't see me there, then it's obvious I left. What do you want me to do? Call you and say, hey, I'm in the Like, what's the point? That hurt. Izuku felt so hurt about Bakugo not even caring about saying goodbye. It wasn't about informing him, it was about talking one last time in person. That's what friends do, right? Yes, Kaken. That would have been nice, actually. They both fell into silence again. By the way, you're not being really convincing, Izuku added after a while. Excuse me? Are you sure you're okay? Your decision seemed so sudden, and also you're acting all defensive. You do that when you don't want to be honest. Are you on? I always act defensive. I've known you forever, I know all your levels of defensiveness. That sounds so effing dumb. Are you trying to avoid me? No. Are you sad? 3 seconds of silence. No. You're lying, he answered immediately. I'm not. And you're so annoying. Please, Kaken. His voice suddenly arrived at its breaking point. He wasn't crying, but he sounded supplicant. You know you can count on me, right? I just know there's something wrong. I could even notice with no communication with you at all. Deku, stop. You belong here in Japan. People adore you, and you're escalating so quickly. We can always have missions abroad. There's no need for you to do this. Your home is here. Your friends, your family. Don't you feel alone? If I could genuinely tell you want to do it, I wouldn't be saying all this, I promise. Bakugo emitted a very long sigh, again. It's complicated, okay? It's better like this. Kaken, is there seriously nothing I can do for you to feel better? For you to come back? He pressed his lips together as he waited in silence for a response. Yeah. There's something. His voice sounded low now. But you're not gonna do it. I'll do anything. He heard Katsuki scoff. That makes it worse. I'm not asking you to do it because there's a risk you'd actually do it, and that would make me a shitty person. It. Bye, Deku. No, wait. He didn't hear Katsuki hang up, so he continued. Then you're not gonna come back? Not anymore. Of course I'm gonna come back, but just from time to time. You said it yourself, my parents are there, you know. So no need to act like it's a tragedy. I don't even think I'll be here forever, just some years. Izuku felt a little relieved at that, but he still couldn't shake the sorrowness in his heart. Will you be at my wedding? Absolute silence. He supposed Katsuki expected him to keep going. Today we're choosing the place. I'm kind of lost in all this. He smiled sadly. I wanted to ask you to be my best man, though I don't think you'd like that. He laughed gently. I still have Shudo, but you know how he is. Between the two of us we won't make half a proper groom. And I don't know why I just hope I could be as excited as Ochako. Well, it's not that I hope I could, the thing is that I should. I don't know what's wrong with me. I can't help but think. Everything would be easier if you were here. I think I just got used to you carrying the burden with me. When you kept the secret of one for all back then, and when we won together against. Well, you already know. So your marriage is a burden now? Katsuki said in a mocking tone. But Izuku actually grimaced, thinking about what he just said. Deku, it was a joke, you don't need to look so horrified. Wait, you can see me? Nah, I've known you forever. I know all your levels of unnecessary, stupid worry and overthinking. That made Izuku smile. But he couldn't help but consider Katsuki's previous words, deep inside. Are you gonna be there? No, he said cuttingly, acquiring the seriousness from before. I don't think so. But why? He talked as if he was a kid not getting what he wanted. I'm busy that day. I haven't told you the date. When is it? In 2 months. On May 11th. I'm busy that day. Kaken. Why do you want me there anyway? Because. And I don't mean the wedding. Why do you want me to come back? In what way is that useful to you? Useful? It's not about that, Kaken. You know it. I already told you I genuinely believe you don't want to be there, you don't sound happy. I'm just worried about you and also, it wasn't just really about Katsuki. He knew deep inside it was about him. He hated to be selfish, and he didn't even know in the first place why this whole situation was affecting him so much. But it did, and he didn't know how to put into words that he just missed him. That him not being there just didn't feel right. It was as if something in his life was missing. But before he could even formulate a word, Kaken talked. Deku. He took some seconds before saying what was coming next. You need to let me go. That was like getting hit by a bucket of cold water. He thought the progress of the conversation was finally getting better just for Kaken to ruin it again. Just like their friendship. What do you mean? He sounded more shocked and dazed than anything. You already know. Stop doing this. Seriously, Deku. You're loved by everyone now, so let me go. This time he got to hang up. Izuku wouldn't have come up with any response anyway, half of his mouth was open. So, basically, he confirmed Kaken wasn't interested in being his friend anymore. He guessed by, let me go, he meant, just move on already from our friendship. Acknowledging that didn't make it hurt less, but at least he had an answer to that. He still hoped Katsuki had been more sincere about the reason why he seemed so sad, why he was in USA and what could he do for him that Kaken didn't want him to know about out. And he wondered if cutting their friendship was in any way related to all that. But maybe he was right. He needed to let him go. And he tried. He really tried. But his mind wasn't focused on anything during days. He felt as if some girl had just dumped him. Maybe he would feel just like this if Uraraka broke up with him right now. The comparison was kinda unfair, but he just couldn't imagine anything else similar to what he was feeling. Where did you leave the documents, Deku-kun? So I can take them with me tomorrow morning, she asked him while she put on her pajamas. What documents? You know, the ones I told you to make a copy of. Your family book, birth certificate, identity card. I need them so we can get registered. I only have a break tomorrow on morning to do it. Oh, he swallowed. You forgot. Why? Uraraka gave him a contemplative look, but it didn't seem reproachable. Just observant. Then she looked away. It's okay, don't worry, she said while she sat on the bed. She didn't sound cheerful as always. She sounded almost sad. Tired. Izuku approached her and hugged her from behind. Ochako, you can tell me when you're mad. She smiled weakly while she touched his hands, wrapping her. I'm not mad. I just hope you could put more enthusiasm. Izuku felt like a horrible person instantly. He really didn't have an excuse for that. I understand that you're kinda workaholic, but Mina and I ordered the invitations, we sent them, we booked the place where we'll go after the ceremony, we picked the flowers, the menu, the photograph. It's almost as if I'm going to marry her and not you, she snorted, kind of bitterly. But I'm not mad, she repeated, trying to sound calming. Izuku saw she even had the kindness of not mentioning how sending the invitations was actually meant for him to do it, but he forgot that too. Actually, what really happened is that he'd felt so depressed by seeing the invitations and knowing that not any of them was for Kaken, that he decided to do it later, and that's when he forgot to do it. I'm sorry, he said before tucking her hair behind her ear and kissing her forehead. You're completely right. I don't know what's been happening to me lately, he lied. I'm gonna focus from now on. All I had to do was give you some papers and I failed on that. It's okay, Deku-kun. She looked in a better mood now. It was just a mistake. Don't torture yourself. It's okay, Deku-kun. Deku-kun. Izuku closed his eyes. That was another thing he'd been upsetting him all those days. Every time Uraraka said his nickname he remembered Kaken. And it just didn't feel right in her lips anymore. He couldn't focus on the wedding because everything reminded him of Kaken. Everything reminded him of how Kaken wouldn't be there because he didn't want to do anything with him anymore. By the way, Ochako, he smiled, a bit uncomfortable. Can you stop calling me like that, please? Uraraka's expression dropped instantly. You want me to stop calling you Deku? Why, yeah. He raised his hands in a reassuring way. I mean, that's my hero name, right? And we're gonna marry, you could try calling me by my first name. Oh, color spread through her face. That would be so nice, actually. Great, he assured, tense. He was surprised that it had worked so easily. He knew he shouldn't mind, since everyone called him that way now. But in a personal context it was different. His mind just switches between the moment he's Deku the hero and Deku the person. And now, as a person, he isn't sure he wants to hear that name anymore. It reminds him so much about his failed friendship with Kaken. You know what? I'm glad you asked me to call you Izuku. Only Bakugo-kun and I called you like that outside of work and it felt kind of weird, you know? I was waiting for him to take the hint and stop calling you that way since, well, we're a couple. But I feel calling you by your first name will be more special from now on. Izuku frowned slightly at that. Oh, really? I'm glad it makes you happy. A sensation of discomfort appeared, in a subtle form. The original meaning of the nickname wasn't nice, but at the end of the day it was Kaken who had called him like that since they were 4, so he finds impressive how Uraraka expected Katsuki to stop calling him like that just so she could gatekeep the nickname. But he decided not to go deep on that. Ochako didn't need to know the reason why he asked her to call him Izuku in the first place. A whole month passed. It was Friday. All the male ex-classmates from Class A decided to hang out together and have some drinks. Izuku wasn't really in the mood, but at the same time he thought some social interaction would do good to him. Aoyama smiled while he brought him an alcohol drink. I know you don't drink, it's just for the thought. He didn't expect Izuku to aggressively raise the glass and swallow the entire drink in almost one gulp. Whoa, Midoriya, Kaminari said while he laughed along with Kirishima and Shiro. What happened to you? Calm down, it's just the first one. Izuku grimaced while he touched his head. Okay, I shouldn't have drunk that so quickly. Shiro laughed again. Are you in a bad mood? Yes, last week he even got mad with a sidekick of his agency, Shudo said in an anecdotal way. I didn't get mad. I just told him that he shouldn't let down his guard since there were still some children at the building and for the way he begged for your forgiveness you didn't tell him in a very calm way. What the F dash, Midoriya? Denki paled. He's exaggerating. He raised his hands trying to justify himself. Please Shudo, stop. Well, someone has to take Bakugo's role now since he's not there, Shiro joked and oh, great, rubbing salt into the wound. That's how it was gonna be. That's very unprofessional, Midoriya-kun, Ida scolded him, repositioning his glasses. But it's understandable, weddings are stressful after all. Oh true. The wedding. Kirishima repeated as if he'd just remembered. Wedding. It was always the same topic. Wasn't he allowed to think about anything else? Why did everyone always assume he was thinking about the wedding? The wedding that wouldn't have his childhood friend in it because, it turns out, he meant nothing for him. Actually, Shudo, did you tell Midoriya what we talked about? Kirishima said. Oh, I forgot. DMN, Kaminari said smiling. And then he looked at Izuku. We just wanted to ask you if you wanted a sort of bachelor party, you know, like an American-style wedding? But we didn't know if it would be too weird. Yeah, but like, we can still organize a trip or something, Mineta added. Oh. He put on a nervous smile. And no, guys, seriously. Thanks, but it's okay. I'm alright. The stuff from the wedding itself is already, too much, huh? Are you sure? Shudo directed at him. Yeah. He smiled reassuringly. Now that you mentioned American style and all that, did you all know that Bakugo is in the top 15 in the USA? In just 1 month. Kirishima spoke. Oh really? That's very impressive. Ida added. So USA still makes hero rankings? Todoroki asked. Oh yeah. Ojiro joined the conversation from the other part of the table. I think it got only removed here after all that happened. But it's still used in other continents. I need another drink, Izuku suddenly demanded. Sure, Kaminari said, giving him a weird look, and he went with Aoyama for more drinks for everyone. And how does Bakugo feel about that? Todoroki asked. He says that it's not enough and he should be in the top 5 by now, Kirishima answered just before laughing. He's Bakugo after all, he added. You guys always got along so well since the beginning. Izuku smiled bitterly, which obviously looked out of place and earned a contemplating look from Todoroki. Just after that he started his second drink. Why yeah, Kirishima agreed doubtfully. Must feel nice, he continued while he spun the ice in the glass, staring at it. not having to try to earn his approval. Kirishima gave Todoroki a questioning, panicked look, but Shudo just shook his head, as if he said, "Don't mind him." Did anything happen?" Kirishima asked Midoriya anyway. "No, not really. There's not much to happen when a person cuts you off completely." He took a big sip. "But did he tell you, anything mean? Did you guys argue?" "Bakugo has just a harsh way with words, don't take him that seriously." "Thank you, Kirishima-kun, I know how my childhood friend is," he spat, earning a slight frown from Shudo, which was already something pretty rare to see, and a small distortion in Kirishima's smile that made him look more uncomfortable and confused than anything, but not upset. "No. He didn't tell me anything mean. Indeed, he didn't tell me anything at all. I found out he was gone the day after he was gone. And the only thing I got from him was a short call that I myself did, which ended in him rejecting me." He finished that drink and quickly grabbed a third one that was in the middle of the table. The conversation was closed among Shudo, Kirishima, and Izuku while the others were in their businesses for some minutes, but in some point Denki and Aoyama had brought their attention to Midoriya while he was talking, since it wasn't normal seeing him openly complain that much about something. Kirishima cleared his throat, his smile more forced than ever. "I don't know what happened between you two, but you guys got so far with your relationship, right? You've worked a lot, so you'll surely find a solution. We talk by video call every day, I can just talk to him about it and make him reason." Izuku laughed, but it didn't sound very genuine. "What are you? His spokesman?" The four people involved in that conversation swallowed, and Kirishima quickly looked at Denki, as if he asked him for imminent help. Kaminari took the hint and said, sweating, out of subject, "Did you all know Jairu was promoted because of an undercover mission?" "Really?" Kirishima answered a bit too loud, in a weird mix of tension and relief. From that point, everything kept going naturally, and everyone were simply talking about their jobs. Except Izuku, who was lost in his thoughts, still slowly moving the pieces of ice with the straw, and drinking, until he felt a little kick on his leg, coming from the left. He looked at Todoroki. "Don't do that again," Shudo said, calmly, while the rest of his friends laughed and talked, making Izuku frown faintly. "What do you mean?" "Right earlier. Kirishima isn't at fault, so don't be rude." Izuku pressed his lips together, from frustration, and he looked away from Todoroki again, trying to dissimulate his strange, sudden urge to cry. "All right, I know." It was the only thing he replied. It was true. Kirishima didn't have the fault that Bakugo appreciated him more that he went quiet the rest of the night. At some point he stretched his arm to grab another glass, but Aoyama put his hand in between. "Are you sure? It's gonna be your 9th one and you're not used to it." Izuku felt kinda annoyed, but he was mostly thankful for the concern, so he smiled tenderly. "It's okay, it's the last one. I promise." Aoyama thought about it, and then he passed him the drink. "You are a professional hero. That's very irresponsible for you to do," Ida exclaimed. And Deku laughed, telling him not to worry since he didn't have to work the day after. But the laugh sounded gloomy. Like those kinds of laughs you express in the middle of crying, when someone tries to say something funny to console you. So, Kaminari stared at him some seconds before telling him, "I'm sorry you argued with Bakugo. Or whatever happened, but you don't need to look that depressed. Think about positive things, you're gonna marry. You're the most fortunate one here." "Oh no, the wedding again." Izuku wondered if he'd ended up in a sort of loop where he was only allowed to jump between the two same topics. "That's true," Ida stated. And he looked literally like a proud father, which made Midoriya feel weirded out. "I'm so happy for you too. I always knew you would end up together." "Oh, really?" "Yeah man, you two are made for each other," Kaminari added. "You're both so similar," Sato said from the other side of the table. "Yeah, you two are so nice and have compatible personalities," Ojiro added. "Even your faces look kinda similar," Siro said with an amused expression while Izuku basically paled. "That's not exactly a good point," Tokoyami explained, deceived but not surprised at the notions of his ex-classmates. "Well, anyway, we should collectively beat you up for being sad a month before marrying a beautiful woman." I wish I was you, Mineta said. Everyone started to add a comment, and then a rain of questions. Where is the honeymoon? Is everything ready yet? How many people are we gonna be? Why was everyone so excited about his wedding but him? For some reason, the only ones who hadn't said anything were Shudo and Kirishima. Todoroki looked bored, and almost kind of annoyed with the conversation, while Kirishima strangely seemed like he was studying his reactions. That only made him feel that more pressure was being put on him. Why was that much of a deal? Was he a bad boyfriend if he wasn't thinking about the wedding during 24 hours and being happy about it? But he must say, maybe his problem was that he didn't think about it at all, unless someone reminded him. He stood up without answering any question, startling everyone. Then he took a deep breath and smiled again. Sorry, I think I need to take some air. He went out and leaned against a wall, closing his eyes during some seconds. He knew he was wrong for making up a drama about something that had happened a month ago. He knew he was wrong for feeling overwhelmed by talking about the wedding, something that he definitely would have to face. It was just frustrating that everyone dismissed his issues about Kaken so easily. He remembered Uraraka saying, I don't understand, he just went abroad, and now his friends said, it's okay, you shouldn't be sad because you're gonna marry. The way no one seemed, not just a bit, surprised about him and Katsuki arguing or having a problem between them, even after all those years cooperating together, made him think no one had expectations for them to get along in the first place. Not even Katsuki had expectations on it. He was the only dumb one. His eyes got blurry and he rubbed them, feeling pathetic for crying again. He was the only one affected by all this, anyway, while Kaken was happy there, talking from time to time to his actual real friends. If he was the one who thought about Kaken all the time, it wasn't that much of a deal if Kaken thought about him just during some minutes, after ignoring him during a whole month. So he unlocked his phone and marked his number. The beep of the call started, but he wasn't nervous this time. Took long to... Was Kaken busy? Was he sleeping? Was he hesitating to pick up the phone? But he finally heard him. Deku? It's morning here, what do you want now? What do they have that I don't? A small silence. What? You already know that I never looked down on you, you already apologized for everything, so what do you want? What do you expect from me? Is my personality so bad that you'll tolerate everyone but me, even after everything? He noticed some more seconds of hesitation on the other line. Deku, are you crying? What if I am? It's not that you care. That's not effing true, what are you on now? Not true? If you cared you wouldn't push me away all the time. He heard an angry huff and mumbles, which seemed as Katsuki struggling with the choosing of his words. I don't know what's with you now, and say all the shit you want about me but don't effing lie. Say all you effing want except that I don't care about you, you a-hole. A-hole? Me? He said as aggressively as Bakugo. What do you expect me to think? What do you expect me to do? After dropping a bomb like, hey Deku, let me go, you expect me to go along with it. You want me to act like it's okay, like I don't care, right? But I'm not like you. You. He sniffed. I care about you, I care about our friendship, I care about your approval for some effing reason, and I didn't chase after you for almost half of the years I've lived. Just to stop now. At this point it's not a decision anymore, and I'm not gonna let you go. I'm not gonna let you go, he repeated again. Whether I want it or not, whether you want it or not. So I hope you're happy now, knowing that you can easily let me go, you can easily not care, but it's just the opposite for me. Congratulations, you're superior than me. He heard a hard breathing on the other line. He thought for a moment that Katsuki wouldn't say anything, but after some other PRD of silence he talked and his voice sounded actually broken. You know what, Deku? Feel a lot. You don't understand shit. It seemed like he sniffed too. You don't have any idea about what I'm feeling right now and you don't need to know it, you the egoistical prick. You mad that I'm not in your goddamn wedding now? You want me there only for you, liking your feet or something? Deku's face was drowned in angry tears now. I just wanted to be your friend. I just wanted you to like me. Technically, he was more upset about the fact that Katsuki ignored him completely while he called his other friends, and because he left without telling him, but the alcohol only let his mind go to very generalized, deep problems and not the specifical ones. Well, and I already told you I don't want it. I don't want your FING friendship. What are you gonna do about it now, huh? You too, you absolute idiot, he sputtered just before hanging up. He stood there for a while, just focusing on his breathing and cleaning up his tears, kinda shocked at himself. He had just called Kakin to throw a tantrum. He called Kakin to argue. And for some reason he'd made Kakin cry. He'd F'd it up so bad. Oh no, I'm sorry. He unlocked his phone again, frenetically, muttering words that couldn't reach anyone. And he pressed the calling button again. The following number is not available. No. He opened the messaging app to make sure his fear was justified and, effectively, he couldn't see Katsuki's profile photo anymore or send texts. Kakin had blocked him. He closed his eyes again, defeated, smiling out of pure bitterness because it was the only thing he could do. Midoriya. He jumped at the sudden voice. Eshuto. He quickly wiped his eyes again. Let's go home, he said while he moved his head as a signal of the direction where his car was. Yeah. Izuku followed him and got inside the vehicle once they arrived. The first 15 minutes of the driving were all silence. Izuku had his head reclined to the seat, exhausted, hurt. But he got curious for an instant, and he observed Shuto's face during a while. Todoroki was concentrated on the road, and only the lights of the city could partially illuminate the soft features of his face. Anyone would say his calm eyes lacked of worrying, but Izuku knew him enough. He smiled gently and said, "You look sad." Silence. Why? He asked, despite of the previous lack of response. Todoroki emitted a soft sigh, with a serious face, still looking at the road. I just hope you two stopped hurting each other and talked like normal people. You listened to the conversation? Half of it, he answered frankly. I see. Izuku sounded and he was tired but not mad. Just embarrassed that Todoroki had just seen him basically tell his childhood friend to F off. I want to help you like you help me, Shuto continued. But everything is confusing. You must feel confused too. Izuku laughed quietly in a sad way. Well, there's not really anything to understand. I think there's a lot to understand indeed. The car stopped. The door got opened automatically. It's okay. We'll figure it out, Todoroki assured while he got off the car, ignoring Izuku's lost expression. You won't drive me home? No. You're still a bit drunk. I'm worried you'll tell something dumb to Uraraka. Izuku smiled while he got off the car too. I think you're exaggerating a little. But thanks. Really. Yaoyorozu-sen doesn't mind, right? You know she doesn't. So just go inside, it's okay. I texted Uraraka telling her you'll sleep here tonight so she doesn't worry about you. All right. His heart was crashed. But he felt that, at least for that night, he'd finally have some peace. He groaned softly as he stretched his body on the sofa bed. He quickly remembered where he was, though he was a little surprised that his head didn't hurt as much as he expected. He guessed he hadn't really drunk that much. He reincorporated, rubbing his eyes, just in the moment Todoroki got into the living room. Oh, you're awake. Good morning, Shuto, he said with a weak smile and sleepy voice before yawning. Good afternoon, he corrected him. Oh wait, really? He was about to laugh from embarrassment, but as he thought about it, the realization hit him in seconds and his eyes widened. Oh no! I promised Ochako we would go and choose the flavor of the wedding cake together. What time? He reached out for his mobile phone, placed on the little table next to the sofa, and looked at the screen. I still have 15 minutes. Alright, don't worry. I'll drive you. Thanks. Izuku took a quick shower and put on some appropriate clothes Todoroki gave to him so he didn't show up with the same outfit as the day before. Then they got into the car. Hopefully they wouldn't arrive more than 10 minutes late. While he drove, Todoroki noticed how Izuku unlocked his phone, just to sigh hard later. Almost as if it was painful. And then he reclined on the seat with his eyes closed. He didn't even have to ask. Izuku himself said it. He hasn't unblocked me. It happened just last night. And it's not even been a day for him. Yeah, I guess you're right, he answered reluctantly, Not that it would change things much. He looked at the window, bored at the aspect of the city. They kept in silence the rest of the drive until Todoroki finally parked. "Oh, she's not there," Izuku pointed out, looking at the door of what it seemed a very exclusive patisserie. Then he checked his phone and he saw a message from Uraraka apologizing because she'd maybe arrive a little late. He sighed from relief. He was really so lucky now that she wouldn't see he forgot about something of the wedding again. "Well, I'm heading out. Thank you for everything, Shudo." He was about to open the door but Todoroki grabbed his arm. "Wait." Izuku looked at him, tilting his head confused, waiting for him to talk. "Are you sure you want to marry Uraraka?" he suddenly asked. Izuku seemed a bit shaken with the question, but surprisingly not because of the question itself. He just didn't expect it at that moment. He got comfortable on the seat again, looking down, a mix of reflective and melancholic. He was really doing things that Todoroki had to ask. "Yeah, I don't mind." "You don't mind?" Shudo repeated in a calm way, but he was observing him attentively now. It's just that, well," he rubbed his hair awkwardly. "If she hadn't said anything, I probably wouldn't have asked her to." He admitted with guiltiness. "But she's always so supportive and kind to me. I don't like to deny her things that make her happy. Since she's the one who tries to support me all the time, I wanted to give something to her in exchange, you know? And there's not really a reason why I would not do it." He just nodded in response, before looking at nothing in general. Izuku smiled, a bit sad, at the common gesture of his friend. "What are you thinking?" "Tell me," he said kindly. Shudo shrugged. "I'm not the best example. I'm not an expert about love or feelings. And my parents' marriage itself was a failure, since it wasn't even born out of love. But I don't mind is definitely not the answer I would expect from a man who is about to marry a person he wants." That felt like a slap to his face. Kind of feared it. But it was like a sort of feeling in the background, the way he knew he couldn't give people the reaction they wanted and expected from him. Hearing it out loud was very different. Sometimes Shudo's honesty scared him. He swallowed. "I understand why you might think that. But why is everyone talking as if..." He made a pause because he knew what he was going to say wouldn't sound good. "As if it was a big thing?" He looked at Shudo's face this time. "A marriage consists of loving each other and living together, right? If you asked me to marry you, I would accept too." Todoroki raised an eyebrow. "What?" In a platonic way," he cleared out, raising his hands, panicked. "I'm comfortable next to you and I care about you. I just don't see the problem. And my mom is married and it seems as if she wasn't. Sometimes marriage doesn't mean anything. That's why I don't understand why there's only valid way to see it, you know." Probably for first time in his life, he saw Shudo place both hands near the bridge of his nose in what it seemed exasperation, as he could tell by the long but soft sigh he emitted while he closed his eyes. He remained like that for some seconds, thinking, and then he directed to Midoriya again, patiently. "I don't dislike your idea of marriage. It's modern, I guess." Izuku didn't know if he should laugh or cry at the fact that's the best thing Todoroki managed to say. But it's still not the default. A marriage is... He took another moment to think. A marriage is a promise. No matter if it doesn't go well, or how bad it is, the starting point is supposed to be that. A promise to be forever with only one person you love in a unique way. And I'm sure Uraraka sees it that way too. If you married a person in a platonic way, well, I don't think there's a problem as long as that person feels the same. But I know Uraraka wouldn't marry someone who isn't you right now, and you know it too. So this is unfair for her. Unfair. You just said you would marry me. And I love you too. But marrying a friend is not usual. To begin with, you're tied with that person in a lot of ways. You'll share a family name and you'll be registered together in all documents. You can live with a friend, but a wedding is not supposed to be a simple celebration to live together. And I think somehow you got confused at that or you simply didn't want to acknowledge it. But it is what it is. Do you even love her back? If you don't need someone to be exclusively special to marry, then what kind of love do you feel for her? How do you love her? Izuku felt like he'd stopped breathing, and he looked away from Todoroki, starting to feel distressed. How do I love Ochako? It was hard to tell. It's not like he remembers a starting point where he began to love her in a special way. He didn't believe in that feeling of butterflies in your stomach that romantic media used to describe. Because with Uraraka, everything was very simple. He had just ended the chaos Shigaraki and all for one cause during the end of his first year as a student. He'd been far from home for a long time, he'd felt so alone and his mind was in a dark place after seeing so many people he loved get hurt. But when Uraraka found him, she embraced him in a tight hug while she cried. And he cried too, because he'd missed the warmth of a person for so long. She told him that he shouldn't do things alone. He remembered Kaken had told him the same, and he felt bad for not listening to him even if it was for a major good. He was thinking about ways to apologize and talk about it with him, but before he could realize Uraraka's lips were on his. He felt confused, surprised, lost, but warm again. So he just went along with it. It's not like he had a sort of romantic awakening. When she confessed in that said moment, he accepted her feelings because he just felt that was the way things should go. It was a happy ending, right? Heroes had won. Everyone was supposed to be happy. So, he didn't question his own feelings for Uraraka because he didn't want anyone to be sad at the end, especially someone who had shown so much concern about him. However, his feelings never changed. It's true that he felt attracted to her, aesthetically, and that helped. But there wasn't a real difference between how he felt before dating her and after dating her. He cared about her, he liked her personality and they got along easily, which is why he didn't have any problem when she asked him to live together either, when they started working. But it's not like he thought more about her or he felt more excited about spending time with her. And he was okay with that. He was okay, until that precise moment where Todoroki had basically forced him to think about it in a deep way. Now, he didn't know how to feel. He didn't know what he should feel. He just wanted everyone to be happy. About what you said, Todoroki spoke and Izuku jolted, unaware that he'd been overthinking during minutes. I feel that you're marrying because you're grateful to her. Izuku stayed silent for some seconds, considering it. Does that? Well, would that be a bad thing in case it was true? No, Todoroki answered easily. I don't think that's a bad thing. I just can't identify with it, so it confuses me. To tell the truth, he looked away from Deku for the first time. Since you said you would get married, I thought that I'd like to ask Momo someday. Not now, because I don't want to go too quickly or make her think that. But maybe someday. Should-o. Izuku smiled tenderly at that. However, he continued, if it was about being grateful, I would probably date you and not her. Izuku was surprised that Todoroki could say those things without feeling embarrassed. But I don't like you that way, and I don't want to marry Momo because I'm grateful. I mean, I feel grateful about her, in some ways. But there's not something like an exact reason or purpose, I just love her. And I think it would be nice to wake up every day looking at the face of someone I admire. Izuku contemplated him for a long time. He didn't know what to answer. Shudo's feelings seemed so genuine compared with his that he didn't know how to react. Todoroki's words made a lot of sense, but it was something that felt really distant from him and at the same time he could understand very well. He just didn't know why he could understand it so well if he didn't exactly identify with it. She's here, Shudo announced. That's when he observed Uraraka in the distance, arriving to the door of the place with, Kaminari? All right. I'll go now. Thanks for driving me. No problem. And by the way, I didn't mean to attack you or make you feel uncomfortable, I just wanted you to reflect a little. It's okay, Shudo. I know. He smiled, nervously, before getting out of the car. I came here to eat cake. Denki said happily. We were invited to a hero event this morning. When I told him about this he insisted to come with me, Uraraka explained smiling. It seemed that place was the #1 among people who wanted to marry, since the owner had a cooking quirk and they let you try all the cake flavors. He supposed that's why Uraraka chose it. By the way, are you okay, Deku-kun? Your eyes look a little puffy, she whispered to him with concern while they entered. Don't worry, it's because I slept too many hours, he replied instantly. He wasn't in the mood to eat anything. He really wasn't in the mood to do anything, but he forced himself to eat, and he actually felt more relaxed and easy with Kaminari's presence. He lightened up the mood, And since he talked a lot and made jokes, that freed Izuku from having to put an act in front of Uraraka. They seemed like they were having fun. But then, whoa, a spicy cake? Uraraka exclaimed, covering her mouth. So strange. Kaminari added. The woman of the shop explained that it was a carrot cake with extra ginger and a secret ingredient. Deku tried a little piece and he smiled. He smiled, joyless and affectionately at the same time. Because as weird as the cake was, he knew Kaken was the only person who would pick something like that. Deku-kun, your eyes watered. Uraraka pointed out shocked. Is it that spicy? Kaminari put his attention on him, frowning quietly. Yeah, he laughed softly, wiping his little tears. A lot. And just after a few seconds, he said, I want this one. Wait, what? What an honor. The pastry chef talked. This is the first time a client cries from emotion because of a cake. Uraraka touched his chin, pensive. All right. He hit her hand palm with the other one. Can we order one with one half made of a flavor and the other half with another one? Of course, the woman replied. Great. Then it'll be half chocolate with almonds, half spicy, since I didn't like the spicy one. Sure, the woman said nicely. Come to the counter with me, my workmate will show you the design of the cake. Yes. Uraraka complied happily, standing up. In the moment she left, Izuku felt Denki's observing eyes over him and he smiled shyly. Is anything wrong? What surprised him the most was the sudden shocked and sad look Kaminari gave him. Kirishima is right. Come here, guys. Uraraka interrupted from the counter. Izuku gulped and stood up, quickly letting go his eyes from Kaminari now that he had the opportunity. He was concerned about what Denki had to tell him, but some sort of intuition made him not want to know it. He spent 2 weeks overworking himself. He tried to avoid Todoroki's knowing eyes that read him and silently reminded him that deep inside he was just using his job as a method to stop thinking. If he thought his personality would become 80% being sad because Kaken depicted him, 20% stressing about the wedding. He didn't even have hobbies anymore. The only thing he did when he arrived home was sleeping all the time. Uraraka had tried to spend some time with him in bed twice, since there had been a lot of months since they didn't do anything because of their problem of schedules, but he said as nicely as possible that he wasn't in the mood both times, and that made him want to run away far because he felt like a bad person for rejecting his girlfriend, but at the same time his mind couldn't focus. For some reason he really didn't want to do anything, but he guessed it was just a temporary feeling. By the morning of Tuesday, his day off of that week, he woke up at the sound of knocks on the door. Shudo, he said sleepy, just after opening the entrance door. Come on, he replied, seeming kind of bored. We have to choose your wedding suit. Izuku grimaced a bit. Is it necessary to do it so soon? Soon? It was soon when Ida and I insisted on you 2 weeks ago, and the next one. Now there are less than 2 weeks for the wedding. Less than 2? He didn't finish the sentence, feeling lost. Instead he looked at the wall calendar to confirm what Shudo said. An instant anxious pit on his stomach formed, making him lose all his sleepiness, and now he felt like throwing up as if some sort of stage panic invaded him. He emitted a long, frustrated sigh while he closed his eyes. Just give me some minutes to dress up. He opened the door wider so Todoroki could enter. He checked his mobile phone before going to the shower. Oh, Ochako went 3 days to a hotel in the mountains with spa and thermal baths. I know. You've been acting all weird and unenthusiastic, so I told Momo to invite her to some improvised trip. I think Ishido and Jiro are with them too. That way you can have time alone and put yourself together, so you don't ruin the wedding. That's so nice from you, thanks. He was thankful Todoroki seemed always so calm and barely expressive, otherwise his too sincere words would hit him worse. They got in the car. Izuku just wished this was quick. Uraraka probably had her dress already, but he guessed women cared a bit more about that stuff, since it was hard to find the perfect one between a lot of good combinations. He hoped everything was simpler for him. There's a boutique here? Izuku looked around once they got off the car, confounded to see they were in an airport. Todoroki had his gaze away from him. Sorry, I'm not good at lightening up people's mood. And I didn't know how to make you participate more, considering you already decided you were going forward with this. So I hope this makes you feel better. He began to walk inside immediately and Izuku followed him, highly curious. He didn't ask. Instead, he just was patient for Todoroki to explain what he'd planned. Had he maybe organized a trip for him just like he told Momo to do it for Uraraka? But he should have told him to pack. They stopped at some point, in a zone where a bunch of people with suitcases got out from a crystal corridor that joined the airport infrastructure with the door of the plane who had probably just landed. Izuku wanted to ask Shudo what they were doing there. But when his eyes captured spiky blonde hair, his heart skipped a several amount of beats. He was trembling everywhere, not being able to formulate a word. His legs, his knees felt so weak and he was just standing there, trying to anticipate with fear and emotion the moment Bakugo would look at his direction. He was wearing sunglasses, probably so less people recognized him. He put them off, placing them on his head, and he looked around. Todoroki snapped his fingers and raised his hand as if saying hello, finally getting Bakugo's attention. That's when Katsuki locked eyes with him. Izuku couldn't help it. He ran to him. It evoked him the day of the sludge villain incident, in the sense of feeling the need to run towards him once their gazes connected. But now it was because of something good. He enveloped him in a tight, strong hug that startled Bakugo and it almost made him fall. He knew he shouldn't do it. He knew their last conversation was a disaster. He knew Kaken shouldn't be there right now. But he couldn't care at that moment because he'd missed him so much. And if he was there, then that meant Kaken didn't dislike him that much, right? Maybe everything was a misunderstanding. He was being delusional, but he could dream, he could now that he got to see him again. He thought Katsuki wouldn't hug him back, or the best he would get was a courtesy pat on the back. But after some torturous seconds of hesitation, he hugged him back hard, his hold actually much stronger than Izuku's, and he rested his head in his shoulder, which made Deku completely unable to resist the urge to cry. Quickly silent tears streamed down his cheeks, his face resting against Bakugo's chest. It was weird. They had never been like that, it was such a plot twist in Izuku's life. But it felt good. They remained like that for nearly 2 minutes, until Katsuki pulled back and he rubbed his arm across his eyes with a short sniff. Wait, Kaken was crying too? Whether he had done it or not, he dissimulated it soon. All right, dumbass. He spoke for the first time. Let's pick your wedding suit and make your lazy but actually do something. Since someone here SCKS as best man. He gave emphasis to the word, looking very directly at Todoroki, who had been there standing patiently during the whole hug. Izuku emitted a wet laugh. Thanks, Kaken. I tried my best but he didn't make it easy either, Todoroki justified himself. Katsuki rolled his eyes. Yeah. Both of you are a disaster. He started walking. No hug for me, by the way? God, you're so annoying, he complained at the same time he harshly put his arm around Shudo's neck and pulled him near him. Todoroki smiled. You've become so soft, Kaken, Izuku commented laughing. Don't call me soft or I'll kill you. Ah man. He had really missed him so damn much. He owed a big one to Todoroki. During the car ride, Izuku wouldn't stop talking and talking and talking. He talked more in half an hour than in 2 weeks. He asked Katsuki a lot of things about his job, about the USA. By that time he was already the 4th hero in the ranking indeed. He said that beating the American heroes was too easy and he hoped Japan had kept the ranking it had before the war. Izuku told him about the agency as well, what new missions they'd had to do, traits about the quirk of his new worker mate, and how despite doing his job well in general, he couldn't have with him the coordination and communication he used to have with Kaken. Izuku was a bit frustrated as he thought about it. Everything used to be very quick and easy when they did things together. Fight after fight, rescue after rescue. They were always competing, so they ended up working a lot without even realizing. And he never felt exhausted after it, unlike these last 2 months. But he didn't say all that out loud because he didn't want to insist anymore. He didn't want to ruin the atmosphere, which is why he decided to leave apologies, regrets, and some other issues to clarify and talk out for another moment, if they ever got any. When the three entered the boutique, the woman of the shop left them in a big room with some armchairs and an enormous amount of suits carefully hung inside of plastic bags. There was also a fitting room with a red curtain. There were more clothes than the ones who were usually shown to the public. She probably gave them a special treatment and freedom to be alone and pick what they wanted because they were heroes. How about this one? He picked a random one and put it in front of his body. It was light gray. Don't just choose the first one you see. Katsuki scolded him. Why would you wear gray? That color only fits half and half. Okay. Despite the answer, Izuku couldn't help but smile. Someone needed to slap his face to make him stop smiling so much. He just couldn't erase it. Oh, look! He quickly grabbed another one. This one is so cool, let me try it on. Wait, don't try anything on before showing it to me first, or whatever, nerd. Izuku had already entered the fitting room. When he got out, Katsuki's jaw dropped. What the F dash? Do I look that good? Good. You're so fing embarrassing, Deku. Take that ugly thing off already. Do you want to marry or divorce? That's so mean, Kaken. You picked a corduroy brown suit. What is mean is what you did to my sight. Izuku rolled his eyes, in a light-hearted way, and they kept the same dynamic. At the beginning, Izuku genuinely picked suits that looked good for him but ugly for Katsuki. However, in some point he finally learned what kind of suits were supposed to be ugly, unconventional fabrics and colors that apparently didn't fit him, like gray, brown, or green. Katsuki prohibited him to wear green too because his hair looked like that he didn't need to wear green clothes, and he already had his hero suit, and he started to pick them on purpose just to see Kaken's reactions and laugh. He wanted to make it last longer. He didn't want this day to end. He didn't even let Katsuki pick his own ideas of suits, because he acted all hyperactive. Katsuki finally got to choose a black one and lend it to him. Alright, try this one on. I don't like it, he lied. This one is better, he said, showing him another random one. Oh my thank God, Deku, you're impossible. He grabbed his mobile phone from his pocket with anger and marked a number. Izuku tilted his head, curious. Then Bakugo started to talk. Hear me out, old hag, you need to come here. He heard grumbles on the other line, probably due to the form Katsuki directed to her. Yeah, I'm in Japan, long story. Anyway, you have to come here. Deku wants to wear a shirt with club collar and a purple suit for his wedding. He heard an oh no, and they hanged up. Did you tell your mom to come? Izuku asked. Yeah, she's a literal fashion designer. Let's see if you go and try to defy her like you do to me, you a-hole. I'll wait. Izuku exclaimed happily. Then I'll call my mom too. She's gonna be excited about this sort of thing for sure. Izuku, my baby, you look so good. Turn around. Are you serious? Katsuki pointed at him, who stood there smiling awkwardly. Look at his bow tie. You've been saying that about all the outfits. Don't talk to Inko like that, you brat. Mitsuki yelled at him. Inko started laughing. It's okay, he's right. Since he's my son and he's about to marry, I can't help but seeing him so handsome with everything. I'm so proud of my boy. Mom, stop, he said, blushing. Nah, it's okay, the blonde woman replied to Inko. Katsuki is just super picky and annoying. She received a grunt from him in response. He talks a lot and then all he wears is black t-shirts. She looked at Izuku and squinted while she touched her chin. You don't look bad, but it doesn't convince me. I told you. Katsuki complained to her. He should wear neutral colors. I know, she said, irritated. Alright, let's pick the definitive one. She stood up. Inko and Izuku observed Mitsuki and Katsuki, amazed at them organizing without saying anything. Todoroki had fallen asleep in one of the armchairs at that point. But Izuku really liked the atmosphere. It was so warm and familiar. They took around half an hour to choose something, but in the end they lent Izuku a new combination. Katsuki picked the white suit that convinced him the most and a white shirt with a spread collar that looked pretty stylish. Mitsuki picked an elegant beige waistcoat, a seafoam green tie and a handkerchief of the same color to put in the pocket of the suit jacket. When Izuku got inside the fitting room and dressed up, he saw that it was actually a really good choice. He stayed in the mirror for minutes. He was going to marry. Now that he'd decided on the clothes, the fact that he was going to marry felt so real. The movement of the curtain behind him made him jump subtly. Why are you talking so long? Katsuki got quiet when he saw Izuku's figure in the mirror. The shorter one turned around, looking at Katsuki with a nervous smile and a slight blush. He didn't know why he felt so nervous about his approval. What do you think? Bakugo observed him for a while, with an indecipherable look. Then he approached slowly and he touched Izuku's tie. He was so near that he forgot how to breathe for a moment. You put it wrong as always, he said in a strangely soft tone. Look, it's like this. He proceeded to tie it well. Sorry. It's okay, just learn already. He finished making the knot, but he didn't pull back. He just looked at the outfit again, and then at Izuku's eyes. You look good, nerd. Really? He nearly whispered. Yeah. Kaken had a sort of nostalgic gaze. Almost sad. And Izuku couldn't understand why, but an immense sorrowness filled his chest too. Kaken, he talked in a low voice. When this finishes, he bit his own lip. When the wedding is done, will all this finish too? He didn't want to think about it. Kaken had just arrived. He wanted to be thankful that Kaken probably had to ask for anticipated vacations only to be his best man. But he had so much fun just picking a suit when he wasn't even the kind of person who enjoyed going shopping. If all that took Kaken to stay were the wedding preparations, then he hoped he could postpone the wedding 1 year. What do you mean? Despite his unusual quiet tone, Izuku saw the signs of stress already forming in his face. You'll return to the USA, right? Yeah. And you won't be my friend anymore. What? Katsuki frowned immediately, just to close his eyes seconds later, in a sort of realization. He took a very deep long breath while he brought his hands to his face, covering it until the bridge of his nose. I'm sorry. He turned around and sat on the stool next to the mirror, exasperated, resting his forearms on his knees. Izuku sent him a panicked look. Why, you're sorry because you don't want to return my friendship or… No, idiot. I'm sorry for the last call. I didn't mean to say all that. I didn't want to make you cry. I was just frustrated, hurt. Izuku felt actual pain at how much it must have taken for Kaken to say the last word. He waited patiently for him to continue. You started to say all that. That I don't care about you. That I wanted to feel superior. And yeah, I know I'm not perfect. I know I've always been a effing hole to you. I know why you might think that. But I've tried to change. I've changed. Izuku nodded, feeling his eyes water. I thought we had already ended that phase. I thought we'd sorted things out back then, you know? But you saying all that made me feel like I had gone backwards. I don't expect a medal. I don't expect anything from you. I don't expect you to forgive me despite you said you'd already done it. And I meant it, he quickly made clear. But, he led the conversation again, don't act like I'm the same a-hole I used to be. You don't have to forgive me, but don't say I do these things just to feel superior than you. Don't say I don't care about you, because I'm not that person anymore. I've tried so hard not to be that person anymore, he reassured. And Izuku knew him enough to know that he was at the verge of crying. He was just containing himself. On the other hand, Izuku didn't bother to hide his tears. I know. Izuku squatted in front of Kaken and he looked at his eyes from below, resting his hands on Katsuki's knees. I'm sorry. I was drunk. I'm sorry. I wanted to say it just after I hung up, but you had already blocked me. But I don't think that about you. This time, his hands held Katsuki's. I value you so much as a hero and as a person. I know you've changed. That was just a messed up way to call your attention. To make you react. Please understand that the same way you felt the weight from the past, I also felt as the old Deku. I felt so rejected and outcast when you talked to everyone but me. I didn't even get to say goodbye. How am I supposed to know you still care about me if you act like I'm the last person on your list? Katsuki nodded, his face easily revealing how he felt about everything inside. Just tell me why you did it, please? Why did you seem so sad? Why did you go in the first place? What did you say I could do for you to stay but I couldn't know? Katsuki emitted a deep, trembling sigh. Deku, I want to be your friend. Izuku was shocked at hearing that for the first time ever. I'll keep in touch with you if you want to. And I told you that I'm sorry for acting like an a-hole these 2 months, so whatever happened doesn't matter anymore. But, Deku, just don't ask me. Can't you simply forget it? Izuku felt so frustrated, so worried. He guessed this was the only way. He didn't want to ruin things. He felt a pit in his throat and he gave his best not to cry more. After locking eyes with him for a considerable amount of seconds, he nodded, forcing a smile. Okay, Kaken. Don't worry, I won't ask you. Today was exhausting, Shuto said, yawning while he drove. You literally didn't do anything. Kaken, that's not nice. He picked you up at the airport. Just so I could do his job for him. Izuku laughed. He was actually pretty nervous during the way back. He wanted to ask Kaken to sleep in his house since Uraraka wasn't there, but he was worried that would sound too violent. But why would it be violent? He just had to message Uraraka telling her he was his childhood friend after all. It felt weird and at the same time not. What should he do? Bakugo, sleep in my house until you return to the USA, Todoroki said. Oh well, DMN. Don't give me orders. Then where will you stay? At your house, because I'm ordering you to let me stay. Todoroki rolled his eyes. Deku felt a little jealous, but it wasn't the same unhealthy, unpleasant feeling as the night he called Katsuki while he was drunk. This time he was just sad to finish the day and know that Shuto and Kaken would be basically having a sleepover while he was alone. He blushed slightly. Can I sleep in your house too? So you don't have to go pick me up tomorrow. Sure, he responded casually while Bakugo gave him a weird look but didn't say anything. Once they entered, Todoroki offered them the big bed, since 2 people could fit in. Oh, what the F dash? I'm not getting in the bed where you and Ponytail F-ed. Izuku's face became red. Kaken, you can't just say those things. So, at the end, Shuto slept in the big bed, Izuku in the sofa bed of the living room and Katsuki in the guest room. He kind of felt Katsuki had just come up with an excuse to not sleep next to him, but Kaken was Kaken and he understood. It was a good night. They ordered food and they watched old All Might documentaries. However, when he stood up to put on his pajamas and finished brushing his teeth, he heard Todoroki talking unnecessarily low. I'm sorry for today. He thought maybe it was a conversation that he shouldn't interrupt. So he stayed in the middle of the hall, next to the kitchen. For forcing you to do that. Cut it out, he heard Katsuki reply. You didn't force me to do shit. I just wanted to make Midoriya feel better. I know. Are you going to be okay? Yeah. Stop worrying. I'm a grown-up man, I'll just get over it. Izuku gulped. Todoroki knew something about Bakugo that he didn't know. It was obvious that Katsuki didn't really want to be there, because he was getting affected by something but Izuku couldn't ask him about it. He supposed it was the moment to stop listening. It would be really shitty of him to hear a conversation about a topic Kaken had exclusively told him not to ask. It still hurt that Katsuki trusted Todoroki more than him in that sense, but Kaken was there helping him, spending time with him, and he said he actually wanted his friendship, so he didn't have another alternative that accepted what Kaken was giving to him. He went to sleep, expecting to do things better the next day. He woke up at the sound of harsh claps. Finally. Why do you put an alarm on your mobile phone if you're not going to wake up? I had to turn it off myself and I wasn't able to sleep anymore. And you here chilling? Who do you think you are? Izuku was still too sleepy to register all Bakugo's scolding words. He just followed with his tired gaze the ray of the spring sun illuminating Kaken's hair in a way it made it look like gold. He smiled softly. This felt too much like home. Suddenly, for some reason Todoroki's voice echoed in his mind. And I think it would be nice to wake up every day looking at the face of someone I admire. He closed his eyes again, thinking about the beauty of that feeling and... Wait, what? That ended up waking him up completely. Kaken, good morning, he said, panicking. Okay, calm your butt down. Go take a shower and dress up. We're going to a travel agency today. To a travel agency? He blinked. Demonstrate. Uraraka did all the work with the wedding since you were too lazy to do that, so the least you can do is organize the whole honeymoon. Honeymoon. I forgot people did that after the wedding. Why am I not surprised? He rolled his eyes. Anyway, hurry up, or your breakfast will get cold. Breakfast from Kaken? What had he done to deserve so many good things? After he did everything Katsuki told him to do, they got in the car. You know how to drive? You don't, he replied back smirking. I just didn't find enough time. Lame. Stop. He tried to sound annoyed, but there was a smile across his face betraying him. Where's Shudo, by the way? Some people have to work. That's why he gave me the keys. Do you want to rob a bank? If we use masks, the only evidence will be the car of Icy Hot. Kaken. Katsuki snorted at his indignant reaction and he started the car. So you wanted to make it a surprise? The nice manager of the agency asked. What kind of place would your future wife enjoy? Izuku got frozen. Wait, what is Ochako like? Katsuki, who was in the chair next to him, raised an eyebrow at him, impatiently. The guy sitting behind the table had a very forced smile, a drop of sweat streaming down his temple. The silence had just been too long and too awkward. He looked at both sides as if that was going to give him some sort of divine inspiration. Are you serious? Katsuki finally interrupted him, ending his sufferment, and he looked at the employer. Just search up something relaxing and with nice food. Why, yeah. The man jolted at Bakugo's high volume of voice and he started typing on his computer. Is Maldives okay? The guy said, unsure. Too snobbish. She's not gonna feel comfortable. All right, he continued typing. What about Bora Bora? The flight is too long and they only eat like the same 3 things there. Izuku felt so surprised. Katsuki was handling everything much better than him, who was literally the groom. The man of the agency and him were carrying the whole conversation. A trip around Shanghai? Izuku finally spoke. But it was just about general culture. Did you know Shanghai is the city with the biggest amount of information about quirks in the world? Since the first baby with a quirk was born in China, they did a lot of investigation and research and they converted that city into a touristic zone, basically. Katsuki huffed, smiling arrogantly. Of course I know. That place has the biggest museums, and the BS starts hide information you can't know unless you go. But they also have a ranking about, not the best heroes of the world, but the best heroes in history. And guess who is the first one? He said in a bragging tone. All Might, definitely. Deku replied excitedly. And they also have the most extreme amusement park in the world. Each one of its rides tries to simulate a quirk from a famous hero, and simulations about how some real fights must have felt from the hero's perspective. They do it by getting data from the stunts, the movements, the quirk, the pressure of the wind. And the people who survive all the rides without panicking get another free trip. That's sure easy as F-, especially to us. I don't know, Kaken. They seem pretty scary and they were done by very skilled engineers. What a baby. He smirked at him. I'm sure I would beat you in each one of those stupid rides. You wish. Deku smiled back. That's when the guy from the agency said, happily, it seems we have a preference. Shanghai then? Bakugo was about to nod, but Izuku said, actually no. He raised a hand and Katsuki gave him a questioning look. Izuku smiled shyly at him. You said it yourself, Ochako likes to relax. She probably would get kinda bored with sightseeing, especially in such a nerdy place. But, he breathed, taking courage. Do you want to make a trip with me to Shanghai? And you're free, of course. He was rubbing his neck. Bakugo observed him, shocked. Deku, we're deciding on your honeymoon. I know. Oh god. What am I even saying? But we can, right? After my honeymoon. We can bring Shudo too if you want to. I just thought. He looked down at the floor. I just thought we would have so much fun. Katsuki was quiet for several seconds, the man's gaze jumping from Izuku to Bakugo. All right. He answered eventually. Izuku's wide smile was instantaneous. About the honeymoon, he directed at the travel agent again. Just search up a good Caribbean cruise. It's relaxing, there's different food, you see different beaches, people have cheesy activities and dance. I'm pretty sure Round Face will like that. Kaken, you're the best. Shut up. They spent around 1 hour deciding all the itinerary and different options of the cruise. Izuku wanted to plan and book the trip they would have together too, but Katsuki reprimanded him and told him that he should focus on the wedding first. When all of that finished, they would make their own one. You don't say that just to reject me later, right? He whined while they got in the car. I already told you that I won't. Shut your mouth already. They both closed the doors and Izuku buckled up. He was about to speak but something set him off when he looked at Katsuki's direction. His hands, holding the belt, were trembling. It was subtle but visible. However, Kaken's face looked pretty normal. Kaken, are you okay? Why wouldn't I be? You're trembling. Katsuki got frozen in place only for a millisecond, just to click his tongue immediately and finish putting on the belt harshly in order to get the car started. It's okay, if you're anxious you can tell. Why do you have to take everything so seriously? He interrupted him. Everyone trembles for no reason from time to time, it's not that deep. Have you even considered I could just be cold? In spring? Yeah, any problem? Izuku sighed and they fell into silence. A hollow invaded his chest. Fragments of the words Todoroki had said to Katsuki the night before tried to invade space in his mind, but he shook them off quickly. He just wanted to ignore it and act as if he hadn't heard anything, especially since he didn't even know the details. Luckily, after 3 minutes the awkwardness disappeared. So he talked again. We're finished for today, right? He smiled like a kid getting free time to play after finishing his school homework. Can we go to the cinema? What? We've never done it. He shrugged apologetically. He wondered if Katsuki had other plans to do now that he was in Japan again, but he couldn't help but wanting to do with him all they'd never done together. He knew Katsuki wouldn't stay for a long time, so now that Mirio had given him a lot of days off and they both had free time, he wanted to try and spend as much time with him as possible. After stealing a glance at Izuku, he focused on the road again and he replied, okay. He smiled even wider. Katsuki was being so lenient, it was like a dream. They watched a 2-hour horror film. No one of them got scared, but there was a moment where Katsuki grabbed Izuku's arm very suddenly on purpose during a scene of tension, making Izuku jump so hard that all the popcorn fell on the floor. Katsuki started laughing at him and Izuku's face went full red, but at the same time it was refreshing to see Kaken laugh. When they got out, Izuku praised the cinematography while Katsuki rambled about how much he hated all the characters and how glad he was that they all had died. Since the cinema was inside a big shopping center, their next activity was going shopping. They stopped at some point to eat ice cream and then they saw an arcade and had a heated fight playing table hockey. The loser would be the one to make dinner for Todoroki. But when a crowd watching them was formed, they decided it was the time to stop and they went home to cook together because it had ended up in a tie. While they waited for Shudo, they found out there was already a video with thousands and thousands of views on the internet called Pro Heroes Deku and Dynamite playing table hockey. Katsuki complained about how people disrespect their privacy, but Izuku was laughing and he downloaded it instantly so he could always have it on his phone. The next morning Izuku was the one to wake up Katsuki. He got on the bed of the guest room and gently touched Katsuki's cheek with his index finger. Kaken, he whispered. Don't get angry because of me waking you up, please. Bakugo grunted and moved to the side, turning his back to Izuku. The F you want now? He said sleepily, the sun hasn't even risen yet. Come on, Kaken, he repeated affectionately. Get up and eat breakfast, we're going to the beach. Katsuki turned around again, watching Izuku's face. His facial features looked so soft in the morning, and Izuku's heartbeat was fast looking at his eyes. He just guessed being 2 months without seeing him had affected him a bit too much. It's still May, the water is cold. Then Shudo will warm it up. He smiled. The three of them took a train and, just as Izuku planned, they spent the day at the beach. How will I know if you're warming up the water or you're just pissing on it? Kaken. Why would he do that? Kaken, he mimicked him. Why won't you stop complaining about everything I say? I'm gonna shut you up a little, he smirked just before diving into the water and grabbing Izuku's ankle to make him fall and sink. Wadash. Bakugo emerged from the water with a triumphant smile, about to try to do the same with Shudo, who just stood there giving him a weird look, but he suddenly got sunk again because Izuku had remained under him looking for the chance to pull him too. And before they realized, they started to fight and try to make each other fall over and over again. Midoriya ended up swallowing salt water unintentionally because he couldn't stop laughing and telling Bakugo to stop. At the end they decided to form an alliance and sink Shudo by surprise. They were left without warm water. Then they ate sandwiches under the umbrella and played cards. Todoroki was the one who had the turn before Izuku, so Bakugo looked at Izuku's cards and told Todoroki what he should use, just to bother Izuku. Todoroki used something that favored Midoriya instead, and he told him about Bakugo's cards in revenge. Bakugo was indignant about the betrayal, but Izuku had another fit of laughter. Katsuki was the loser and Todoroki was the winner. After that, Todoroki read a book under the sun while Izuku and Katsuki took a nap. Their towels were next to each other, so at some point they moved in a way they were in front of each other. When Izuku woke up after sleeping for 1 hour, their noses were almost brushing and his eyes widened, but he didn't move, he just got frozen in place. He stayed looking at Katsuki's face, he didn't know for how long. His face looked so calm and it was nice to see the slight movement of his hair, caused by the sea breeze. Deku was just so shocked that they could relax and sleep next to each other like this. His middle school self would have never imagined. And that fact brought him so much comfort that he thought he could cry. He supposed he just couldn't get rid of the feeling that everything was temporary. It felt like a countdown. It was just so unfair that precisely in the culmination point of their friendship, Katsuki would go away. But he wanted to keep this moment in his memory. Just a photo won't do any bad, right? He gulped, while he quietly sat to search inside his backpack and take his mobile phone. He made sure Todoroki had fallen asleep too. He didn't want to look too creepy. It was okay. He would just ask Kaken for permission to keep it. He clicked on the camera and raised his mobile with trembling hands, trying to have Katsuki in the frame and take the photo. But, in the moment he was going to press the button, the mobile phone sounded at its highest volume, startling him so much that he let the device fall on the sand and Bakugo and Todoroki woke up immediately. Izuku gave them a quick, anxious, apologetic smile and stood up to catch the phone and look at the screen. Uraraka was calling him. "Oh, Ochako," he answered, too nervous for some reason. "Izuku," she greeted him sweetly. "I'm at home, where are you? I thought you didn't have to work." Wait, it's true. Ochako came back home today. He had completely forgotten. He emitted an awkward laugh. "I'm at the beach with Shudo and Kaken. I didn't tell you, did I? Kaken is back for some days." "Oh yeah." Her laugh sounded strangely awkward too. I know. I watched the video of you two playing at the arcade." "Really?" He gave her an even more forced laugh. Why was he feeling as if he had just got caught doing something wrong? Yes, it was so cute. Yeah. There was a long silence, or at least that's how it felt, unfortunately. By the way. He raised his voice a little too much. "Do you want anything specific to eat? I'll buy dinner on the way home. Just wait a little, okay? We'll take the train, I'll go to Shudo's house to pick my things and then I'll be there." "To Todoroki-kun's house? Did you sleep there?" Every turn on that conversation was bringing him so much unexpected tension. "Why yeah. Oh. But after a few seconds, she added, "That's great, I hope you had fun." "Thanks. I did. I hope you had fun too, see you later." He hung up as quickly as possible, just before sighing in a sort of relief. "So, Yaoyorozu-san didn't tell you they were arriving?" "It wasn't necessary." Todoroki shrugged. "I called her yesterday to ask where I could pick her up, but she told me not to worry, 'cause she was heading to the agency directly. It must be hard going to work just after a trip." He tried to ignore the fact that Shudo had been a more decent, considerate person than him. Now he felt bad for not calling Uraraka at least once, but to be fair she had only stayed out for 3 days. They had been separated for more time due to hero missions. And he'd been too concentrated into deciding plans to do with Kaken. The thought made him look at Katsuki. He was sitting next to Todoroki. He had been so quiet during the whole train ride, just looking at the window. And Izuku couldn't shake the feeling that something was off, but he knew if he was too pushy Katsuki could end up getting mad at him. When they arrived at the station, Izuku stopped at a restaurant to order takeaway. Todoroki and Bakugo were waiting for him outside, leaning against the bollards of the street, with their backs to the facade. Izuku got out before time, because he had forgot to ask them if they wanted anything, but, "You're the one who brings the FNG subject all the time." He stopped on his tracks when Bakugo talked. Despite the language, he sounded calm. "If I knew, I wouldn't have told you anything. I'm just worried because containing emotions is not good." "I'm not containing anything." His tone became more aggressive this time. He emitted a tired, bitter sigh. "Today I had forgotten about everything for a moment, so now I feel weird. That's all." He didn't know what exactly they were talking about, but something about Bakugo's words made him feel identified and afflicted. As if he couldn't understand the dialogue by itself, but he could perfectly relate emotionally. Todoroki's gaze was attentive on Bakugo, and to tell the truth, Izuku was starting to feel kind of irritated that every time he disappeared, Shudo and Katsuki had something to tell each other. Why couldn't they just have that conversation on the train? He took a deep breath and turned back to the restaurant as quietly as possible before they noticed he was there. He picked up some of his things in Shudo's house. Bakugo went to the bathroom to take a shower without saying goodbye, so Todoroki was the one to drive Izuku home. "Shudo." Todoroki made a short affirmation sound as a way to tell Izuku to keep talking. Is anything wrong with Kaken?" he asked gently. "You know why he's sad, right? You know why he wants to live in the USA." He didn't answer. "I thought you were on my side," he said quietly, looking down. That made Shudo frown slightly. "What do you mean?" "You more than anyone knew how I felt when he was gone. And you know how I feel now. The least I would expect from you is to keep secrets from me and exclude me." "Exclude you?" He was serious, but his voice kept untroubled as always. He took some seconds, probably thinking. And then he asked, "You heard us saying something?" "Only a few things. Not enough to know what's going on." Todoroki sighed. "First of all, I'm not excluding you," he said after a pause. "No one is excluding you and you know it. Second, that's right. You told me how you're feeling. I think I know how you're feeling about everything. Do you want me to go and tell Bakugo about it? Or anyone?" Izuku opened and closed his mouth. He felt guilty soon. Bakugo and Todoroki were friends too. If Kaken had decided to open up to Shudo, Shudo was just trying to protect his feelings and his privacy. "The day of the wedding suit Kaken and I reconciled," he expressed, melancholic. "But he told me not to ask him anything. And it's so frustrating." He bit his lip. "I don't want to blame you or make you pay for my frustration. I'm sorry." "It's okay. I should have told you that there are things I know but you don't. Just to clarify. So it's my fault too." At that moment, he stopped the car in front of Izuku's flat and the door of the car got open. "However," he continued, now looking straight in Izuku's eyes, "you're good at analysis. If you haven't figured out anything by yourself, by now, it's because you don't want to." "I don't want to? Of course I want to. It's all I want," he mumbled on his bed just after waking up. His brain had been dancing around Todoroki's words over and over again since the day before. What was to figure out in the first place? There were many doubts, and he didn't think it was possible they all converged in a sole concept. He was a mess right now. Now that he thought about it, when it was about his relationship with Kaken, he didn't like to think. When Katsuki was cruel to him in middle school, he used to focus on how much of a potential good hero Kaken was, and not how mean he was to him. Then in UA, after they fought in Ground Beta, he focused on how happy he was that he and Kaken could have normal conversations and be proper rivals, and then he found out that it had been totally different for Katsuki, who had been reflecting on himself exhaustively and trying to find ways to atone and make up for the past. And then he just enjoyed their friendship and working together. But Katsuki went to the USA. And they argued because of that. But what had that to do with him or their relationship? Whatever was going on in Kaken's life right now that bothered him so much was related to him, or they just argued twice because Izuku hated to feel excluded by Katsuki and he was the one who started to throw tantrums and say hurtful words. He guessed if he had taken the time to think about everything since the beginning, things wouldn't have piled up like that and he wouldn't have this problem now. But when Kaken came back he couldn't think of the words, "Let me go, Deku." He could just focus on the happiness of having Kaken back. With Kaken it was never thoughts or words, only feelings. But now that phenomenon was happening to him in other contexts. He purposely stopped thinking about his feelings for Uraraka after his conversation with Todoroki the day of the cake, because no matter how different their ideas of marriage and love were, he had already decided to do something to make Uraraka happy and it didn't make sense to give it some unnecessary overthinking. But Shudo was right in one thing. He was good at analysis because he analyzed everything. If Izuku did anything all the time, that was thinking. If the exception was Kaken, did that mean his uneasiness to think about Uraraka and the wedding were related with Kaken? But that was too far-fetched. He was having a headache. Izuku! He jolted when Uraraka opened the door of the room. You're finally awake, she said happily. Let's go out. It's been a lot since we didn't have an entire weekend together. Izuku agreed with a nervous smile, and that day they dressed up and they had lunch at a restaurant from a touristic zone. Uraraka gave him a taste of her mapo tofu and it was actually really good, so Izuku took a mental note that he would have to bring Kaken there one day, since it was one of his favorite meals. Thinking about him made him message him after they paid. He smiled when he saw that he wasn't blocked anymore. He hadn't had the opportunity to see it before. Do you have any plans today, Kaken? Maybe he could find some time to go see him in case he was free. But when he entered to the aquarium with Uraraka, he checked the mobile again and Katsuki had replied. Yeah, I'm visiting my parents today. He added a smiling emoji and a thumb up to his reply. He sighed. Maybe tomorrow. Uraraka kept saying how cute all the fishes were, but only a blowfish called Izuku's attention because it was spiky and yellow, so it reminded him of Kaken and he couldn't help but laugh and take a photo. Izuku, of all the fishes you took a photo of the ugliest one, she said, covering her mouth laughing. Don't say that, it's cute. He decided not to mention his similarity with Kaken. On the next day, he planned to ask Katsuki again to meet, but Uraraka told him to have a picnic together at the mountain and he guessed all his day would be complete. After having lunch he received a notification that Kirishima had posted a photo. He opened it and it was him and Kaminari forcefully hugging Bakugo while he looked annoyed, and Siro on the back putting his hand behind Bakugo's head in a way his index and middle fingers looked like mini horns. The caption below the photo was, "We missed you so much, love," and Jiraiya was tagged as the one who took the photo. He smiled tenderly at it. He was missing the fun, but Kaken had very good friends and he was happy for it. What are you smiling at so much? Uraraka asked in an innocent tone. A puppy. He hid the mobile instantly and he slapped himself internally 100 times because why was lying his first instinct at that? He could have just shown her the photo. He stood up before she asked any more questions. Let's continue, yeah? I heard there's a beautiful lake half a kilometer away from here. On Monday, he was feeling anxious again. He completely understood that Katsuki had to make a profit of coming back to see his parents and all his friends. But the egoistic part of himself made him want to be the one to see Bakugo every day so bad. After the wedding, the honeymoon would come. He only had those days before the wedding to spend time with Kaken, so there was a sort of image in his mind of a calendar whose days were constantly crossed in red. And right now, there were 6 red crosses, but only 3 of them were days they had enjoyed together. On Tuesday, he heard knocks on the door. He almost jumped when he saw him through the peephole. Kaken H. He opened the door all of a sudden, making Katsuki jolt. Receive me like a normal person, Dane. Sorry. Izuku laughed softly from embarrassment. Is Round Face here? Ochako? No, she's getting her nails done. Why? Instead of answering, Katsuki just pushed him away and entered freely into the house. Then he leaned against the sofa with his arms crossed and raised an eyebrow at Izuku. Don't you forget something about the wedding, Deku? Ah? Izuku tilted his head to the side. I thought everything was finished already. Well, me too, Katsuki answered in a bored tone. Do you know why? Because it was so evident and important that I didn't think I would have to tell you. But then I thought about how you hadn't bothered to pick any suit until a week before the wedding. So when Raccoon Eyes was talking yesterday about how excited she was for the wedding, how cute you two were gonna look and how emotive, beautiful and long Uraraka's vows were, I couldn't help but feel disappointed but not surprised at you because I already knew you hadn't done sheet. The vows. Izuku paled while he brought his hands to his face. He looked like the guy from Edvard Munch's painting. Exactly, he said in a reprimanding tone. So go write yours right now, and I expect you to do a FING hard work because Uraraka made 2 entire pages. TTT2 PP Pag. On both sides. On both sides, he repeated tragically. Come on, grab a pencil and paper. If you don't make at least half of the crowd cry, consider it a failure. Alright, that's enough, I'm leaving. No, Kaken, stay a bit longer. Just give me some ideas, please. I can't tell you what to write, it's your wife, it's your wedding. I was here just to make you improve the final result or see if you were being too ridiculous or too simple. But you're written 1 line. 1 line in an hour. And it's not even a vow. You realize that's not a vow, right? I don't have enough patience for this sheet. You're clearly too shy to express your thoughts when I'm here next to you. Bye. It's not because I'm... Kaken got out and closed the door without letting him continue. Shy. He fell on the sofa, defeated, and scratched his head, looking at the paper. He wasn't shy to show his vows to Katsuki, he genuinely didn't know what to write. And trying to go and look for Uraraka's vows between her things for inspiration seemed like a very shitty movement. Ochako, thank you for everything. That's all he had. I can do this. He closed his eyes in a meditation position. He massaged his temples with his fingers and got back to work. He crossed out the first sentence and started again. Osichiko, TCNKYOUFOR Evulinji. Ochako, when I met you, I was excited that a girl had talked to me. But with the passing of time, you weren't just a girl anymore. I wasn't happy because I was friends with a girl, I was happy because I was Ochako's friend. No. That seemed like one of those quotes from low-budget romantic teen movies that wanted to seem deep but ended up looking void and generic. He crossed out that too. IWASNTHAPPYBUC IWASFRNDSWITHAGIRL IWASHAPPYBCUSC IWASOCJKOSFRND. Ochako, I enjoy spending time with you. Now that we're getting married, let's have lots of fun together. Okay, that sounded too childish. And weird. He crossed it out. OCJKO, IENJOYSPNDINGTIMEWITHYOU. NOWTHATWREGTTINGMAED, LETSHAV. LOTSOFFUNTOJOR. I promise to give you back all the smiles you put on my face, to hold you all the times you didn't let me fall, to wipe all your tears the same way you let mine drop freely when I needed to hug you all the times you hugged me even if I didn't ask you to. You gave me so much and I gave you so little, so let me make it up for you and become the man you truly deserve. It didn't convince him at all. He was scared it was too forced and people thought he was marrying just out of gratitude, like Todoroki. Maybe if he joined all the parts he had crossed out before, it would lead him to something? Well, it wasn't that bad, right? He wouldn't make half of the crowd cry like Kaken had ordered him to, but it was a starting point. He needed something else to make it a bit more emotional. What was looking forward to regarding his marriage? That's what he should reflect on the paper. I just thought it would feel nice to wake up every day and look at the face of someone I admire. Todoroki's words again. But that, he whispered to himself, frowning. He'd remembered those words the morning that, a marriage is a promise. No matter if it doesn't go well, or how bad it is, the starting point is supposed to be that. A promise to be forever with only one person you love in a unique way. In a unique way, his voice was weaker. If it was about something unique, then only with Kaken, it was never about thoughts, it was about feelings. I mean, I feel grateful about Momo in some ways, but there's not something like an exact reason or purpose, I just love her. Just. Why do you want me to come back? In what way is that useful to you? Useful? It's not about that, Kaken. You know it. The paper trembled in his hands. His hands trembled. His entire body trembled. His inferior lip quivered and he didn't even know if he was breathing properly. I can't be. Not now. Not now. Not at this moment. He didn't know a simple mix of thoughts could bring him so much desperation in a matter of seconds. It doesn't make sense. He was on the verge of crying when he heard the sound of the keys at the doorknob. He quickly hid the paper behind the sofa cushion and cleaned his upcoming tears with his arm. "Hi, honey." Uraraka entered. "Why do you look so scared?" she said after seeing him. "Scared?" He emitted an incredibly anxious laugh. "You look all pale. What are you saying?" "Let me go heat the food." He stood up, but Uraraka followed him to the kitchen area. "Are you nervous about the wedding?" she asked while he put a plate on the microwave. He didn't want to look her in the eyes. "You don't need to worry," she expressed, clueless. "Tomorrow we have a rehearsal." "Tomorrow?" "Yeah. A rehearsal." "Yes. Well, it's not that much of a rehearsal because I don't want to ruin the magic of Friday." She rubbed the back of her head, blushing a bit. "But they'll tell you all you have to do. I'll go with Mina first, and then you. As I said, I don't want to ruin it. It's kinda dumb, I know, but let's go separated ways, okay? So we can save all the emotion for the real one. You can even go in normal clothes. On Thursday we'll finish any preparation we need to do. For example, I'll make an appointment with the beautician and I'll go get a haircut. You can get one too if you want to. That's basically the plan." "Okay." He forced a smile, but it was almost impossible. "Good. Can you come to the bridal salon with me today?" "I can't do this alone." "Why did you say it in such a dramatic way?" "Tell me the hour, I'll go pick you up." "You need to be right here at 10 a.m., okay?" the marriage celebrant told him when they arrived. Izuku nodded hesitantly. "You'll wait here for her. And look, this is everything I'm going to say." The man showed him an open book. "At the end I'll ask these 4 questions. Can you see them? First, I'll ask for your consent, then for your girlfriend's. After that you hold hands. Your right one. She tells you her vows and then it's your turn. Do you have them with you?" "Yeah." He grabbed a paper ball from the pocket of his pants. The letter had gotten crumpled after he hid it on the sofa. Katsuki frowned. "You better go write that down on anything decent by tomorrow." I know," he answered in a low, trembling voice, and Katsuki continued observing him with a questioning look. Izuku hadn't looked him in the face the whole afternoon. "And you," the celebrant directed at Bakugo. "You have to stay next to him all the time, holding this cushion where the rings will be on." "All the time?" "Yes," the man answered, giving him a reprimandable look, probably because of his manners. Izuku crumpled the paper a bit more without realizing, his eyes on the floor, his tense lips making him look hurt. Something felt so wrong about Katsuki standing there, holding him and Uraraka's rings. "I'm sorry." Bakugo's gaze returned to him and he looked surprised, even actually worried, by seeing Izuku's expression. "DMN, Deku. What's with you today? Don't apologize, idiot. It might be a pain in the butt, but it's not that horrible. I just have to grab 2 rings." After that, they were shown the room where Izuku would stay on Friday's morning, changing clothes and preparing himself. He put the bag where he carried his suit on the table, so it would stay there ready for the day of the wedding. "You've already been in interviews about your hero work," Katsuki said while he closed the door. "I don't know why you're suddenly having a panic stage now. This is not worse than an interview, and you won't be on TV. Stage panic? Why, yeah, I know." He chuckled lightly. "Remember that one where we were with Birdhead and Handyman? And the host offered us nuggets that he had under his table during the TV advertising break. When Birdhead was about to grab one, you screamed, 'No, Tokoemi-kun.' He mocked his voice. That's cannibalism, but we were on air by then, and he gave you the weirdest look ever while I died from embarrassment because half of the public laughed and the other half thought you were making a racist joke. And then they posted that fragment on the internet. But do you know what's the advantage? That it can't get worse than that, much less on a simple wedding, so relax." Izuku laughed again, but he still sounded awkward. That's right, thanks. If you keep making that face on Friday, I'll stick your head on the wedding cake. How does that sound?" "Okay." He smiled. Then he laughed. And he kept on it. He kept laughing until the laugh turned into sobs with the passing of seconds. "What the hell?" Bakugo said while the tears spread down Izuku's cheeks. He covered his face with his hands. "Deku, what? I keep wondering why I was the one who reacted differently. Sniff. Everyone knows you'll come back from time to time, everyone knows you're pursuing something you want, Or tea, that's what you say. Sniff. But I'm the only one fearing second by second the day you'll go. No matter how many times you say you will accept my friendship, I can't. He choked on his crying for an instant. I can't shake the feeling that I'm losing you. He wept, uncovering his face, looking now at Bakugo directly, and he wiped one of his eyes despite the fact that he kept shedding tears. Katsuki's eyes widened, and he just stood there, looking dumbfounded and distressed at the same time. It feels like a countdown. His face was red from crying. He kept his eyes on Katsuki anyway, which seemed to be scary for the blonde. Friday is not the day of my wedding. The only thing Friday means to me is the last day you'll be by my side. I just know you won't look back at me anymore. I just know everything will change, and I don't know why. But I don't want to marry. I don't want to marry, he repeated with anguish. I want to be with you forever. What are you saying? His brow twitched. He sounded voiceless. I want to look at your face in the morning forever. I want to eat your breakfast forever. I want to keep cooking with you forever. Stop, he took a step back. I want to play with you forever. On the sea, on the sand, at the arcade. Watching movies with you, buying clothes with you, eating ice cream with you, sleeping next to you, fighting villains with you. Having our own agency together. He sniffed again twice, trying to recover from his breathing. But he kept tearing up in silence. They looked at each other, quiet. Katsuki looked so fragile now. Why? He broke the silence. Why would you say that? Izuka didn't answer, his lips wouldn't respond. Katsuki looked so afraid. Why did you say that? He yelled this time. Why the F did you chicken out now from the wedding? Why did you? Because I love you. He yelled louder than Katsuki. And then he broke into sobs again. I'm sorry if you think it's gross. And it's okay if you don't feel the same, you don't have to. But please don't go. I can accept whatever you give me, he breathed in the cries. Bakugo stared at him, looking like someone who tries to solve a puzzle. Please say something, he said when he had the impression too much time had passed. Katsuki took some seconds longer before answering. I don't believe you. Izuka looked up, right straight in his eyes, shocked as if he had just gotten smacked across the face. You always had this weird fixation on me. He sounded all calm, suddenly. You told me you admired me, that's why you used to chase after me back then, even after everything. So, I thought I had finally understood you. But then I left, and you kept wanting me back next to you like a magnet. That's because I low. But you obviously don't love me. You love me as a friend because why the F would you decide to marry another woman? He spat surprisingly bitterly. Why would you date a woman for 4 FNG years? The volume of his voice was starting to raise gradually. Why would I have to suppress my feelings for 4 years? His eyes looked gloomy now. You're? Kaken, what? So, his breathing sounded slightly more labored than before. There's 2 options. For some FNG reason you're a coward who got scared of the wedding and now you're confusing your feelings for me as an excuse your mind created, or your fixation on me doesn't let you get rid of me. You want everyone and everything, so you're selfish enough to mock me and use my feelings for you against me to tie me to you. Kaken, what are you saying? He sounded hurt and offended, even if he didn't really understand. How can you think that about me? I thought you had stopped antagonizing me. I'd never lie about this, and I'd never mock you about your feelings. I don't even know what your feelings are. You're telling me this 2 days before your wedding. How am I supposed to believe you? What does the number of days have to do with it? If you didn't realize until now you supposedly don't want to marry, how can I know you're not confusing your feelings for me too? Kaken, if there's anything I'm sure about, that's my feelings for you. I've never been so sure about something. No, because, why? His voice finally broke and he had to place his wrist on his eyes to try and stop the imminent tears. Izuku was left without words for seconds, feeling broken-hearted by the image. Kaken, why are you reacting like this? Because the idea of you not loving me back scares me as much as the idea of you loving me. Izuku got completely frozen in place. Bakugo turned his back to him, sobbing uncontrollably. It seemed as if he'd exploded. He was letting it all out. I had already made up my mind. He hiccuped. I kept trying to act normal around you all these years since I realized. I held back, and maintaining that mask was easier than I thought because a part of me was glad you hadn't chosen me. Izuku looked so lost. He opened his mouth to say something, but nothing came. But then you said that you were gonna marry, and I didn't know what to do. I tried to ignore it. I really thought I could ignore it, but people wouldn't stop talking about it, people wouldn't stop congratulating you. I would never be as happy as everyone seemed to be for you, and I felt miserable just imagining you two having a happy life together, living together, having a family. So I left to get over you. I left so I didn't see you getting married. And I planned to come back when I had finally forgotten about you. But you wouldn't stop. He turned around to look at him. The red, tearful but angry light of his eyes made Izuku shiver. Wouldn't stop. His voice sounded like a whisper. I'm sorry, but only for you to do this now? He didn't let him continue. I acted during years as if nothing happened. I shut every single demon romantic thought I could have about you while I watched you date her. I traveled to get over you, only for you to throw away all your effing future like this? A new round of tears came. Why would you love me? Why the F would you love me? Izuku frowned, shocked at the question. He finally got what all that was going to. Why the F would you love? Your bull? You're not my bully, he responded, furious. You're not any of that now. And when we were little, you weren't the only person who looked down on me. And I never took your words by heart. I bullied you, I made you feel shitty, he continued as if Deku hadn't said absolutely anything. I'm loud, I'm arrogant, I'm always angry, I don't have patience. You're amazing, you're smart, you're talented at everything, you always give your best, you always make me smile just by simply being yourself. And Uraraka was there for you from the beginning. She always smiles, she's attentive, she's optimistic, she supports you in everything. She'll never understand me like you do. Don't you FING love kids? You could have a family. All I want is you. You could have a happy future. Why do you suddenly want a miserable life? How can you say that? He teared up again. When I think about a future with you, I only see light and brightness. You know what? I'm not letting you waste your life. Izuku shook his head in denial. I'm turning back to the USA. He turned around, but Izuku grabbed his arm before he could continue walking. You can't go to the USA every time you don't want to face something. No? Just watch me. This is not fair. Why are you deciding what's the best for me? Why are you trying to decide my future? You can't determine what does and does not make me happy. He didn't answer. Kaken, please? We love each other. We love each other. That's great, right? That's more than enough. He smiled desperately. Kaken? Katsuki pushed his arm away from Izuku's hand. And without looking at his face, he said, I need to think. Deku didn't find anything to say quickly, so he just observed helplessly how Bakugo got out of the room and closed the door. Was everything real? Was he himself real? Izuku was left there with no energy, no soul inside of his body. He wanted to scream. He wanted to break a wall and then disappear. Why was Kaken so complicated? He wanted to tie their wrists together with HNDCFFS so he wouldn't have another alternative than staying next to him and listening. He couldn't deal with this. But whether Katsuki accepted his feelings or not, one thing was clear. He couldn't convert his life into a lie. As hard as it was to face it, he would need to break up with Uraraka. He didn't sleep at all. He was awake all night thinking about Kaken's confession rejection and how his conversation with Uraraka should be. At the end, baggy-eyed, he got up to make a big breakfast at 5 a.m. He had to approach this as soon as possible, but the softer the better. Maybe eating some of her favorite things would make it less shocking and painful? Uraraka woke up at 8 a.m. You made a lot of breakfast, she said while she sat down at the table. Izuku served her breakfast and smiled unenthusiastically, but she seemed oblivious at that. When they had almost finished, she talked. You have eye bags, did you sleep badly? Why, he was starting to sweat cold. She chuckled lightly. You must be nervous about the wedding. Izuku got quiet and swallowed. He placed the fork he was eating his eggs with on the plate, slowly. About that. Uraraka tilted his head, looking at him attentively. All right, maybe eating before telling her the news hadn't been his best idea ever. He felt he would puke at any moment. Let's cancel it. There was a big silence. Probably 10 seconds. Uraraka's smile remained static on her face. See, can you repeat, please? Izuku took a big, deep breath. He looked at her eyes this time. I want to cancel the wedding. Her lip twitched slightly to the side. Why? Did anything happen? Were you called on an emergency mission or? No, his foot moved incessantly under the table, and he could feel his knuckles turning white from gripping his pajama pants so hard. I just don't want to. He breathed in. He breathed out. I want to break up. Silence again. Uraraka looked immediately horrified. Why? Her voice almost didn't come out. Izuku bit his lip, he wanted to cry so bad. He would be sobbing if he hadn't wasted all his tears the day before. The conversation with Kaken had left him just too exhausted. I'm sorry, he sincerely said. I'm so sorry, Ochako. I shouldn't have waited so much, but I realized my feelings about you are not romantic. You realized that the day before the wedding? She answered, frustrated. Izuku was going to explain himself, but Uraraka kept talking. She touched the bridge of her nose, shutting her eyes. Okay, she opened them again, regaining her composure. You have doubts? That's okay. Wait, what? What you're feeling is very normal, Izuku. She smiled, clearly tense. This is a big step. At the end of the day, we're supposed to be together forever, right? Every woman and every man who marries is gonna experience some doubts before the wedding. As I said, it's normal. Of course it's going to cause some level of insecurity. Because it's scary. Especially for you, since you care so much about your job. No, Ochako, I don't think you understand. So you might think it's not compatible with your career. But it is. Many heroes are married. So don't worry. And we're both heroes, which makes it better because you know I can protect myself. It's okay. When the wedding starts, all the fear will disappear. Deku didn't know what to say anymore. He was shocked. If Uraraka was planning to be in denial, this was going to be really difficult. After another big silence full of awkwardness and Uraraka's anxious smile, he said, Ochako, I'm in love with someone else. Her expression dropped. You cheated on. No. Nothing like that. He raised his hands in front of him, panicked. I just realized about it. But I never cheated on you. That person doesn't even want to accept me right now. Who is that person? She asked with pain. Izuku gulped again. He could do this. He could do this. Kaken. He said it without hesitation. Uraraka remained quiet for a while, frowning as if someone had told her pigs can fly. As if she had gotten told a bad joke. She shook his head. No. No? But why? Her voice sounded so weak. She seemed as if she was mumbling to herself. What did he tell you? How did he convince you? Izuku gave her a weird look. He didn't convince me of anything. I'm just in love with. You can't. Her voice broke, her eyes were getting wet. Izuku, you can't just do this to me, we had everything prepared, you can't do this a day. Before. I mean, if I had done it at the altar it would be worse. The death glare Uraraka sent him was enough to shut him up. Okay, I shouldn't have said that. He was just too nervous. Thank you for not humiliating me publicly, Izuku. Is that what you want to hear? Sorry, that was unnecessary. Uraraka sighed hard, placing her elbows on the table, her fingers tangled up in her hair. Okay, she whispered as if she was concentrating on something. Then she looked at Deku again. So, you're canceling the wedding because you're in love with Bakugo-kun? Yeah, he replied in a low, nervous voice. But he doesn't want you back, she said more as an affirmation than a question. Well, that hurt. It was more complicated than that, but she dug straight into the wound. Teats. He hesitated, looking away from her. Oh, yeah. That's what it seems for now. Then it's okay. She suddenly smiled again, with sudden affection, calling Izuku's attention, who looked back at her confused. Uraraka grabbed Izuku's hand and pulled it softly, just before placing it on the table and gently caressing it with hers. Izuku contemplated both hands, puzzled. Feelings are difficult to control, but since you said Bakugo-kun doesn't accept you, why would you cancel the wedding? Let's be happy together. I'll help you get over him. What? He was starting to get kind of exhausted. Ochako. He took another moment to process it. How would he even approach that? He slowly took his hand off hers, sliding it through the table, and he could see the dejection on her. Ochako, that's not very healthy. Well, it's healthier than dating your ex-bully, she abruptly spat with a venom Izuku never saw in her. His eyes widened as the words were accompanied with a hit on the table coming from the palm of her hand, while she stood up. The room was now cold and silent, the only sound coming from Uraraka panting. All right. That hurt too. The fact that she was referring to Bakugo the same way he himself did the day before hurt. He wanted Kaken to stop thinking so poorly about himself and just move on. But if others thought just the same way as him, then that made everything more difficult. It wasn't fair. He had already forgiven Kaken. He didn't want to see him sad about that ever again. And he thought Uraraka more than anyone respected their friendship and progress, so he felt slightly disappointed, but he understood. He understood Ochako was hurt, so she obviously would say anything that came to her mind. You know he's more than that, he answered after some time, as delicately as possible. Uraraka kept her eyes on him for a bit more. Then she contained a sob and she went to sit at the sofa, hugging her knees, where she hid her head. Izuku didn't know what to do. He felt sad, guilty, and awkward. I always lose against him, she expressed with sorrow. In battle and in life. Izuku looked at her with pity and he quickly stood up too to go sit next to her. Don't say that. She sniffed. What does he have that I don't? Ochako. It's not that. You're perfect. You're amazing. It's just that we're not perfect together. She gripped her legs with more force. And it's my fault. I wanted to do the right thing, but I just ended up lying to myself and hurting everyone in the process. He had the picture of Katsuki crying in his mind and his heart twisted painfully. I care about you, I'm comfortable with you. And you're beautiful, funny, strong. But I think, deep inside, the happiness of having you as a friend never changed into something superior. Uraraka scoffed softly. Friend-zoned by my fiancé. At least I'm the first one in something, she joked bitterly. Izuku slightly grimaced, and he decided not to talk anymore. After half an hour, he stood up and got inside the bedroom to pack his things. When he entered the living room dragging a wheeled suitcase, Uraraka kept hugging her knees without showing her face. She hadn't moved. I'll go now. Okay, she simply answered. Izuku pressed his lips together and reached the doorknob of the door. He opened the door and turned around once more. I completely understand if you hate me. And I don't know how I'll be able to make up for this. But I'm sure you'll be happy, you deserve better, and I really hope we can be friends again someday. He closed the door, and this time she gave herself the freedom to cry out loud. He requested a hotel room. He had nowhere else to go. If he went to his mother's house, he would have to explain everything and he didn't have the energy. And he couldn't go to Todoroki's house because Kaken was there and, in the worst case, Kaken would get mad and look for another place to stay because that's how stubborn he was. Now, he had 3 problems to solve. The first one, Kaken. The second one, calling all the guests of the wedding to tell them the wedding had been cancelled. Letting Uraraka do that would be too cruel. The third one, managing to avoid Uraraka's parents so they wouldn't kill him. The last one was the easiest, the first one was the hardest, and the second one was the most urgent, so he started there. He called the agency that organized the wedding event. A wave of relief filled him when they told him that, for a money plus, they could call all the guests themselves, so he paid it without hesitation. He laid on the bed after that, but the peace and relief he thought he'd gained disappeared when, after approximately 3 hours, he started to receive messages, and calls. He hoped they weren't bombarding Uraraka with texts too, in such a difficult moment for her, but he knew he was asking for impossible things. He turned off his mobile phone and he decided to sleep until the next day. Of course, when he woke up at 11:30 a.m., the least he expected after turning on the device was a link to Koyami, and more people. It was just the first message he read. had sent him about a digital newspaper with the headline, "Uraraka cancels her wedding with Deku after discovering he's gay for dynamite." Is this serious? The worst is that he read a tweet where the screenshot of said headline was posted, and the caption simply said "pretends to be shocked." Just for that, it had gotten 54.8k likes. No, no, no. This is horrible. Not only was it humiliating for Uraraka, the main deal was that he didn't want to get Kaken involved in all that. How would he get an opportunity from him now? After he dragged him with him into a public scandal? He was just grateful that the press didn't seem to have enough details about the story, and it hadn't appeared on TV. Also, two evident false rumors about heroes were frowned upon by society, and people had become more sensitive after all the Endeavor and Dobby thing back then. That's why the press tends not to take very big risks now. He dialed Todoroki's number. "Shuto," he said when the call was answered. "He's with me at the agency where Kaminari works," he replied without hesitation, apparently reading his mind. "Thanks." He hung up. He put on his jacket instantly and called Todoroki again while he was at the elevator. "One more thing, Shuto. Tell me, do you know who spread the rumors? Was it Ochako?" "No, I don't think it was her," Todoroki explained calmly. "Many people were invited, right? Including cousins and some faraway relatives of her, probably. Or anyone who isn't that close to you too. Everyone received a notification that the wedding was cancelled. It could have been anyone who saw it as an opportunity to get a bit of money." I see. About Bakugo's involvement with it, they probably knew because of Ishido. But she didn't do it on purpose. She was just the first one to know it, and from that point, well, news travels fast. You know how it is. How do you know Ishido-san was the first one? Oh, that's because she's here, throwing a tantrum. Throwing a what? Yeah, she's arguing with Bakugo. Oh no. Why? When he arrived at the ground floor, he didn't get out of the elevator. Instead, he pressed the rooftop button. What he was about to do was kind of illegal, but if he didn't use his quirk, he would never arrive on time. Bakugo went to work with me today because he was bored. Well, that was the way he worded it, but you already know what he meant. Yeah. Izuku listened to him while he jumped from building to building. Kaminari and Kirishima texted us early on the morning to have lunch together because they would patrol the same area, but their boss got mad because she discovered they had a lot of paperwork undone. They hadn't registered anything for months, so it accumulated, and they said they would have to stay all day at the office today, instead of patrolling. That's why we brought them lunch there, so they could eat something. And we were going to spend our break there, but Ishido suddenly came, yelling at Bakugo and asking him why he would break a marriage. Apparently, she was at Uraraka's home yesterday, and Uraraka suffered a very big mental breakdown. So Ishido is very mad now. This is a mess. Izuku complained. Thank you, Shuto. No worries. Midoriya. Yeah. In my opinion, you took the right decision. Even if Uraraka is hurt now, she should be with someone who gives their 100% in the relationship. I'm glad you cleared out your mind. I hope Bakugo and you sort out everything. Izuku smiled affectionately. That means a lot. I hope so too. He hung up. Things weren't that easy since Kaken was the one who had blocked himself apart and that left a bitter taste in his mouth, but having the support of his best friend made him feel good. Todoroki had really had a lot of patience with him. Thanks to his quirk, he arrived in 5 minutes. Kaken. He opened the door so hard that it got smashed against the wall and all 5 people in the room looked at him. Todoroki was standing up with his arms crossed in a corner, Mina and Bakugo were in the middle, and Kaminari and Kirishima were around Mina, raising his hands in a fearful way, as when you want to stop someone from yelling. The silence surrounded the place, but Izuku kept his gaze focused on a confused Bakugo. I'm so sorry, Kaken. After 1 or 2 seconds, Katsuki did no more than emit an exasperated sigh that sounded like a groan. Mina turned around at Izuku's direction aggressively. Are you serious? Him. Is he the one you're apologizing to? Yes, he's the one I'm apologizing to, he responded authoritatively. Kaminari and Kirishima looked at each other, panicked. You have no shame. How dare you dump such an amazing woman the day before the wedding? You motherfucking coward. Mina, please stop. Kirishima said. Do you even know how she's feeling right now? I know it's hard for her. But it would be worse if I lied and gave her an unrequited relationship. And anyway, I understand you care about her, but don't take it out on Kakin. He doesn't have the fault. He actually tried to stop me. She got silent, examining him with her eyes, suspicious. See? Bakugo broke the quietness. That's what I told you all the FNG time. Hump. Mina looked away from him, deceptively, and she crossed her arms. Alright. Sorry. She added after a while. D-dash. Kaminari sighed from relief. Maybe I got out of hand, but Ochako-chan and you made such a cute pair, Stimin. She expressed with frustration. That only made Izuku feel more uncomfortable, but he didn't say anything. Anyway, I don't agree with your decision, no offense to Bakugo, the mentioned one rolled his eyes. And you should take care from now on. Many of the people you know are talking shit about you too. Izuku opened his mouth, frowning. She grabbed her bag and she walked past Izuku before saying anything more. Then she got out and closed the door. Whatever happened right there, Izuku had missed all the storm, it seemed. After that instant of tension, everyone was staring at Bakugo in silence, for some reason. He looked at Denki and Idru, crossing his arms. And now what? You're gonna call me a homewrecker too? Izuku felt hurt by that. Kakin didn't deserve all this. But instead, Kirishima hugged him. What the? I'm sorry. The red-haired talked. Katsuki frowned at him, lost, and then at Kaminari when he said, Yeah, I'm sorry too. He looked at the floor broken-hearted. We should have realized about your feelings, Kirishima continued. But it was too late. I can't believe you suffered alone all this time. Kaminari nodded at that. Bakugo clicked his tongue. Okay, stop. He patted Kirishima's back twice and pulled apart from the hug, surprisingly delicately. How were you supposed to know it if I didn't say shit? You're not fortune tellers. And it's not like you could do anything about it. Idru rubbed his head, shyly. I didn't notice anything out of place until Midoriya started to act weird. He seemed so irritated every time someone asked him about the wedding. Izuku got startled at the mention of his name. Yeah, Kaminari agreed. And the night we drank together, he got all mad at him because you always talked to Kiri. And not Midoriya. Wait, what? Bakugo raised an eyebrow at Izuku. Bright red invaded his face automatically. GG guys. He raised his hands. He doesn't need to know. But you didn't believe me anyway. Kirishima accused Kaminari. Oh, that's true. Denki directed to Bakugo. I decided I had to see it with my own eyes, if Kiri's theory was true. So, I went with Uraraka and Midoriya to choose the flavor of their cake, and he started to cry when he gave a try of a horrible spicy one. And you know what? He chose that one. That was suspicious as hell. Bakugo's frown got deeper and Izuku covered his face from extreme embarrassment. Stop exposing him, Todoroki said. He wasn't joking, it was a genuine order, but Kirishima and Kaminari laughed, thinking otherwise. Well, at least you guys finally solved everything, right? Don't listen to the critiques. Kirishima concluded happily, oblivious. That's when Izuku and Bakugo stared at each other, silently, confusing everyone else in the room. Izuku's eyes were pleading. There was a moment where Bakugo's lip quivered in tension, and he couldn't bear it anymore. No, I'm not dealing with this sheet right now, he said just before heading out to the door. Kakin, wait. Wait, why you guys are not together now? Kaminari asked alarmed, making Izuku stop on his tracks. No, he whined. He doesn't want to be with me because he thinks I'm gonna be unhappy. Wait, Kirishima covered his mouth at the verge of crying. That's so manly. It's not. He also thinks I don't truly love him. Or he thinks just one of the two things now. Or both. Or neither. I don't know. He brought his hands to his head. Then go run after him. Denki insisted. Got it. He ran across the city. Kakin had disappeared too quickly. At some point he bumped into someone and he almost fell on the ground. It was Ida patrolling. Midoriya-kun. Ida-kun, he said smiling. Have you seen Kakin? Ida's expression turned serious in a matter of seconds, and he looked away, putting on his glasses well. No, I haven't. Ugh, he probably left flying. If I knew, I wouldn't have stayed there talking to. If that's all you need, Midoriya-kun, then I'll continue working. I'm busy, he said coldly. Izuku got shocked for some milliseconds, processing Ida's attitude, as the said one walked right over him in order to get back on track. Then, Izuku turned around and caught up with Ida. Are you mad? He asked, raising his eyebrow a bit. Ida stopped again, in front of Izuku. You're an adult man, Midoriya-kun. I respect your decision. I don't understand it, though. I wonder why you would leave a woman who cares so much about you and can give you such a happy life, to go with, well, Bakugo, he said the last part unenthusiastically. I can't deny he's a very mature person if you compare him with his past self. But he's still him. I don't need your approval, 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 I don't need your approval. Izuku gave his everything to hold himself back and not snap. However, Uraraka is a friend to me just as much as you are, he continued. And right now, I don't think I can keep in touch with you regularly, because I feel that would be disrespectful to Uraraka's pain. Despite you committing a mistake, I hope you have a happy life, Midoriya-kun, he said before finally getting back to work. Well, that was something. Izuku breathed. This was getting kind of surrealist. But his priority wasn't the fact that, at the end, Ida was more Uraraka's friend than his, so he continued with his search. I had the feeling I would find you here. Katsuki turned his head and saw him. His eyes shone with the light of the sunset. Then he looked down to watch the river again. I had the feeling you'd look for me and come, he simply answered. He was sitting on the log. What looked kind of scary and high when they were children, seemed normal size now. Izuku sat next to him. He'd had to take a train to Mizudafu to arrive. They remained in silence for minutes, just looking at the water run. I usually think about what would happen if I had taken your hand back then. Katsuki broke the silence, getting Izuku's complete attention. Everything would be different now. Maybe we would be celebrating our wedding, and not canceling yours with Uraraka. Izuku didn't know what to say. Indeed, he didn't know if he should cry, or smile at Bakugo saying something so unexpectedly cheesy. He took a soft respiration, looking at the sky and the sun hiding. He felt the wind moving his curls. It's okay. No matter which was your decision back then, we're here now. Sitting next to each other, after everything. We should feel proud of that. Another long, but comfortable, silence. The day before yesterday, Izuku spoke again. I made you feel scared. Katsuki pressed his hands against the tree tighter. I was a mess, and you didn't understand my feelings completely. And then, I think you understood them, but you simply didn't accept them, despite feeling just the same as me. And you didn't let me explain myself, you didn't let me talk. He heard the birds and the river. Then talk, Bakugo finally said. All right. That was a good sign, Izuku thought. He was willing to listen. He closed his eyes, preparing himself mentally. Then he looked at Katsuki's face, who was still fixed on the water. You didn't understand why I realized about all this now. So, you asked me how you could know I wasn't confusing my feelings for you. Tell me something, Kaken. Do you ever question how to breathe? Katsuki looked right back at him for the first time, frowning slightly. When you take a breath, do you wonder if you're really breathing? Do you ask yourself how the oxygen fills your lungs and diffuses into the blood? Or how the carbon dioxide wastes in your cells? Right. He didn't answer. Half of his mouth was open, but he knew it was a rhetoric question. Well, that's how my love for you is. Bakugo's eyes started to water, just like Wednesday. And Izuku's eyes too, but his voice stayed calm. Loving you is just like breathing. He could see how Katsuki swallowed, by the movement on his neck. I've loved you forever. I've loved you for so long, I've loved you so naturally, so automatically, that I never questioned my love for you. I just loved you. With Ochako. I fooled myself into the idea that I had to love her back romantically. I just thought it was the right thing to do, because everyone was so supportive. And she felt that for me, so why would I not do it back if there was nothing wrong with her? That's how I thought back then. On the contrary, our relationship was always so complicated, that I didn't care about the way I loved you as long as I was by your side. And you know what? It still doesn't matter because, turns out, I love you in all possible ways. I love you in all the forms love has. Izuku wiped his eyes with the back of his hands because his tears were beginning to accumulate, but Katsuki let his fall freely for the first time in a long time. The thing is, he breathed hard. Just talking to you, just having you looking back at me brought me so much happiness that the idea of liking you like this simply didn't cross my mind. Now I know the feeling itself was there ever since I can remember, since the day I gained my senses. But there wasn't something like an explicit thought with words, and anyway, the idea of you liking me that way would have seemed so impossible. And it sounds dumb and complicated, and I'm sorry for taking so slow to realize it, but that's how it is. And it's true. My feelings for you never changed. My feelings for Uraraka never changed either, precisely because you were already there occupying my heart. Because I just wasn't aware of it until you left, until I saw the possibility of losing you. It's miserable. I know people never should realize what they have only when they lose it. But, sniff, I'd still like you to stay with me. Please. Bakugo had his lips pressed together, trembling and tensing his chin as if he tried to avoid bursting in sobs. It was a matter of seconds where Izuku could just concentrate on the hard beating of his heart, until he said, "Come here, idiot." He proceeded to cup Izuku's face in his hands and pull him in order to kiss him on the lips. And Izuku pleasantly responded back soon, gently touching the back of Katsuki's head so he could pull him against himself too, and parted his lips in order to allow him to deepen the kiss. This was the right thing to do. He was finally sure. That's how things were supposed to go. It was soft but intense. It was innocent but full of meaning. It wasn't short but it didn't last very long either. But it was enough, because it was just the confirmation of the answers they were seeking for despite what they already perfectly knew. When they pulled apart, Izuku was smiling more than ever. "You accept me? You accept my feelings?" "No, I just love to kiss the people I reject. It's a consolation prize." Izuku laughed gloomily at the sarcasm. He always thought Kaken was a smart person, but he'd been really dumb when he thought he wouldn't make Izuku happy. If that wasn't happiness, then he wouldn't ever know what happiness was. We're both crybabies. Bakugo tried to sound annoyed, but he was smiling too. It was a genuine, soft, relaxed smile. Crying is good as long as it is with Kaken. "Okay, you're starting to be weird." "Shut up," he said, pushing Izuku's face far from him with his hand. "Kaken, stop," he replied laughing. But he actually wished none of that ever stopped. For someone who said all the time that these kinds of rides are too easy for us, you puked twice, Izuku said, smiling smugly. "It's your fault. If you hadn't insisted to eat in a FING buffet before visiting the second half of the park, it wouldn't have happened. It was a natural reaction of my body. And let me remind you, nerd, that you puked thrice. Unlike you, I never underestimated the potential of this park. I'm allowed to puke a lot." Katsuki rolled his eyes. "Whatever. At least we managed to ride everything. We pounded all the extras into the ground." He said that with a smirk. "Yeah. We won another ticket to travel here. We should give it to Kirishima." "Okay." He leaned against the seat and looked at the window of the cabin. They were in a big wheel. It was night already, but the temperature felt nice because it was summer. Tomorrow it will be more relaxing. We can visit the museum. Good. They were having the trip they promised they would have together. They gave the Caribbean cruise Izuku had booked before to Todoroki and Yaoyorozu, since they let them stay in their house for a whole month until they found a decent flat. Izuku remembers he'd been nervous about living with Yaoyorozu because she was Uraraka's friend. And he didn't have a good experience with Uraraka's friends. Mina talked to Bakugo, but he preferred to avoid Izuku, and if she saw him she murdered him with her eyes. Tsuyu told him to call her Ajisen. Hagakure bumped purposely into him at the supermarket. But Yaoyorozu said that their private love lives weren't her business, and she appreciated all her ex-classmates and friends equally. So, she actually supported their relationship a lot. First of all, she was extra pleased with Bakugo's food because Todoroki and her didn't know how to cook, so she didn't want him to go the day Izuku and him finally moved in. And also, she shyly admitted that she never understood why Uraraka and him had lasted so long if there wasn't apparent chemistry. Yamamo. Jairu had been in the house drinking tea that day, and she complained about Yaoyorozu saying that about a female friend, which made her blush. But at the end, Jairu also said their romantic lives weren't her business, and she just pointed out that by how Uraraka described him without realizing herself, he was pretty much of a horrible boyfriend, so she was glad he freed her from that relationship, and she wished they were happy and he did things better this time with Katsuki. Izuku agreed. He would do things better this time. And that's why he said, "Hey Kaken, get closer to the glass and look down." They were at the top position of the wheel. Katsuki gave him a questioning look, but he just obeyed. His eyes got extra wide. From that big height, a crowd of people was barely recognizable in the darkness. But the powerful light emerging from the lantern each person held on top of their heads was recognizable. And they were standing in a position that made all the lights say, sparkling in the middle of the night, in very big letters. WILLYOUMARRYME. Bakugo's face became red. The question mark was too difficult to add. Izuku shrugged. Katsuki literally face-bombed. "Deku, you're so embarrassing." "That's not very nice, Kaken. Is that everything you have to say? Did you just force all those people to do that?" He pointed with his hand at the window. "I didn't force them, they're my fans." Katsuki sighed, defeated, touching his shut eyes. "You haven't replied yet?" "Of course I haven't replied, dumbass." He got even redder. "You ruined everything, How did I ruin everything?" he whined. "Come here." He made a sign with his hand and Izuku stood up to look through the glass too. "Look up." Izuku looked at the sky. 4, 3, 2, 1 seconds, and the stars were suddenly outshined by the explosion of fireworks made of different colors that formed the quote. WILLYOUMARRYME? Izuku's eyes and mind went blank altogether. He looked at the window, then at Kaken, then at the window, and then he burst out laughing uncontrollably. "Don't laugh. It's not funny." Izuku returned to the seat, holding his stomach and crying out of laughter. "I won. I won because I put the question mark." That only made Izuku stop, just to laugh louder 2 seconds later. "How is that winning, Kaken? Question mark or not, I was the one to ask first. I hate you. I hate you." Izuku ended up panting so much because of his fit of laughter. But he finally calmed down, laying on the seat. The wheel started to roll again. "Won't you kiss me to celebrate our future wedding? Only if you accept your defeat." Izuku rolled his eyes and extended his arms to Katsuki. "All right, I give up, you won." "That was too easy. Just come here, you fool." Katsuki rolled his eyes too and kneeled in front of the seat, bending over Izuku, and they kissed, illuminated by the moonlight, the stars, the fireworks and the lanterns from the people down. Later, the photos of the fireworks and the lanterns were added on the wall of the museum, one under the other. The text under the photos said, "Wedding proposals from heroes Deku and Dynamite." Yes. They were going to have a happy life.